All right, it looks like we are good to go here. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to yet another Sunday edition of the Xbox Roundtable Podcast. This is show number 240. Naturally, this is your host, Invader, and it is great to see you all here tonight as more people start filing into the show. There are a bunch of things that we're planning on going over tonight, including the news and announcements that were coming out of Gamescom. Also, Xbox's Phil Spencer recently did an interview that dropped with a few little tidbits. We'll touch on that. Plus, PlayStation price increases. Is this a wise move from Sony? We will touch on that and a bunch more stuff. But first, let me introduce everybody on the panel tonight. Kicking things off with Centurion. Buddy, hey, how's things going on your end?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm excited for tonight's show. It's going to be an absolute blast. We got a lot of things to talk about. There is definitely some salt flowing in those Twitter streets, but man, tonight's going to be an exciting show.
Yeah, I've been seeing lots of different commentary coming out, and yeah, there's been some salt mines opening up for sure. But we will get into that soon. Moving on down the list here.
Real quick, I just remembered I bought an Xbox 360 today.
Oh, really?
Very
Yep,
nice.
because I was seeing you talk about Space Marine, so I went out to a local game store called Fallout Games out here, and I bought an Xbox 360 and Space Marine.
No way.
It's all your fault. Yes.
What model is it? Like
E series.
what is that? Is that like the like
Yeah,
shiny black one? The Elite?
I would say I think it's when they really stopped looking like Xbox 360s, in my opinion. The original,
It's like the final revision. Okay.
the final revision. I got like one with a 258 hard drive. I mean, I just wanted to be able to experience some. Yeah, you get it.
Mm-hmm.
I get it.
No, that's cool, man. That's cool. Honestly, I look forward to your reaction from it because it's a pretty badass game. Like, honestly. Not to mention, again, you got Space Marine 2 coming out, well, hopefully next year, but we'll see what happens. But I highly recommend it. It's a kick-ass game. Moving on down the list here, I'll go over to Tim Dog. Buddy, hey, it's great to see you back on here. How you been?
Very busy. I'm happy to be here. We got a lot to talk about. It's going to be a really fun show. A lot of in the middle of the summer usually is really dead, but this week some real topics and some fiery topics, and a lot of opinions going to be going all over the place. But yeah, I've been busy. I spoke to you guys about my new job and going to school, traveling. Went to New Jersey last week, went to the Giants check in Jersey again this week, but got home early enough to hit the show. So I'm happy to be here. We got a lot to catch up on, and it's going to be a great show. So stick around, leave a like, and leave a comment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's some good suggestions there, Timmy. Moving on down, we got General MLD. Buddy, I know you're itching to chime in here, no doubt.
Oh yeah, got some very interesting topics to discuss today. A lot of Xbox conferences, Sony making questionable moves. It's the whole shebang here. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Gonna be a fun night.
Without a doubt, my friend. But yeah, lots to talk about. But before we dive in, just a very, very quick reminder to give a show a like, as Tim was saying, and hey, to share this show out. Believe it or not, it does greatly help, especially with like the algorithm and whatnot. So hey, help promote us, help get the show out, and let everybody know that we are live because we have some pretty kick-ass conversations here. Not trying to tell myself too much, but I think we have a pretty awesome thing going on Sunday nights. All right, we got some people filing in on the chat here, some pretty awesome people. Guys, you rock. And on that note, I think we'll lead into our first topic of the night. And this week we had Gamescom come and go. Actually, pretty...
Why not get no introduction?
Oh, buddy. You know what? I totally forgot about you. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, Crusader. Buddy, what's up?
I exist. It's okay. It's been a good weekend. A wedding on Saturday. IT emergency at a place that I volunteer today. So, Good times, good topics tonight. Let's just get into them. I just had to be funny about it.
No, you know what? I totally forgot because you're as silent as a church mouse right now. So, but for good reason, of course. But yeah, thanks for reminding me on that, buddy. And I know you're a little bit tired, but I know that you will be commenting on a few things too. So
Yeah.
don't worry, guys. He's not dead. He's just a little tired. He's been a little bit of a rough weekend. One celebratory and one not so much. But yeah, guys, I guess on that note, again, we will chime in onto the topics. And yeah, again, we will go into Gamescom, of course. And again, we had some new topics new announcements along with some new gameplay for games that we already knew about. Certainly some announcements for Game Pass too that, I thought they were pretty cool. But yeah, I'm curious what everybody on the panel thinks, how Gamescom went. General MLD buddy, my gaming fanatic friend, I'll kick this one off with you. Anything catch your eye at this year's show? Like any games, any like different peripheral announcements, game trailers? What really caught you?
Yeah, well, of course. I did enjoy. I didn't have time to watch it live, but you catch the highlights, all that stuff. It wasn't I wouldn't call it a bad show. It wasn't a phenomenal show either. It was just down the middle, which is fine. I think there was some pretty good announcements for everybody. For me, I saw that Callisto Protocol new trailer. It looked great. Like the creator from the original Dead Space. Like you clearly see that. Yeah, he's trying to put all of his talent into this thing. You see so many similarities to Dead Space. All the things are there: dismemberment, custom death scenes, things like that. I'm really looking forward to playing this. I'm glad that it made the 2022 cut, so that was good for me. Then you got of course, everyone's talking about Lies of P, Day One Game Pass. I think that stole the show in my opinion. I think a lot of people agree, especially coming off me. I just beat Elden Ring. It's my first Souls game I just beat. Felt very rewarding. Now I'm looking for the next kind of fix. And this seems to be the next best thing because people are saying, it has I never play obviously, but they say that it looks like Bloodborne. It plays off of that, but a little more refined, arguably. I'm like, okay, sounds good to me. Another Souls game not made by From Software. Okay, great. More competition in the genre is great news. The genre is going to thrive. That's great. So I'm looking forward to that. High on Life got another look at that. It looks okay. No, not for me specifically, but I'm a fan of Rick and Morty. I'll look at the reviews, see how it is. Age of Empires 4 got some DLC. I will say, as a complaint, I was hoping that they would announce a console port, but I guess maybe it's going to be next year. Maybe they want to expand the game as much as possible on PC and then just pour it over later. I'm hoping that's the case. But for now, it's getting more content, which is always welcome. Let's see. Lords of the Fallen, that looked good. Dead Island 2, finally, after years and years of development, it's finally coming out soon. It looks pretty good. Let's see. The DualSense Pro controller for PlayStation. Hey, I'm glad, great on them. They finally got one. It's just funny that Xbox did this thing in 2015, and only now are they finally catching up. But hey, they're finally doing it, so good for them. I looked there's a Pentiment update. And I'm actually closely following this game. It's from what they tell us, it's not like a strictly RPG like Fallout New Vegas was. It's more like an adventure RPG, where you could pick things from your character, like his background, like his education, things like that. But otherwise, it's a very personalized RPG. Yes, it's still all about choices and consequence, but based on what you pick for him, for his upbringing and background, it's the dialogue is very unique to what you choose in the beginning and the choices you make along the way. So it still is very much an RPG, but more personalized, and I like that. No two playthroughs will be the same. So I'm looking forward to that more than ever now. And otherwise, yeah, it was overall a pretty good show. I think Game Pass overall stole the show. Xbox may have some big games delayed into next year, but they are showing that with Game Pass, you could the value is still insane now, next year, and yeah, for the rest of the generation and beyond. the games they're giving you a ton of games. So I think that was the message, and I think Xbox really killed it there. Oh yeah, I forgot Dune. That looks interesting. It's a survival MMO. I'm curious to see how it will actually look in gameplay. So I'm not usually into MMOs, but I'm very intrigued with that. So I'm keeping an eye on that too. But yeah, I liked it.
Mm-hmm. No, that's you covered your bases pretty well there, MLD, with all the games. I mean, Dead Island 2, it had got leaked a little bit earlier, so people kind of knew about it. You know, that game, I mean, it was a bit of a re-reveal, right? Because I remember it was at PlayStation's E3 back in 2014. And I was like, oh, you know what? That game looks pretty cool. But then it went through, like, it just went underwater, you know? Like, it, you know, I think they had to pass it on to a different studio. And no, I mean, it's cool for it to come back. Apparently, it's supposed to have a pulp kind of an overtone, which sounds kind of cool. And it releases, well, supposedly February 3rd. So not too far off. Not too far off. Hopefully that doesn't get delayed. New Tales of the Borderlands as well. Some people I know will probably enjoy that. And yeah, actually, are any of you guys like old, like, 80s movies fans? Like, there was a Killer Clowns from Outer Space game announced. I couldn't believe that. That was really random but cool at the same time. So
Yeah, I like that. I was a fan of that.
oh yeah.
For me, I was very surprised. I didn't think that it was going to be that much of a show. I thought, it would be a little bit lesser than it was, but I was surprised. Like General MLD said, I do feel that Game Pass had a really strong showing, especially with Lies of P. It looks like Bloodborne, and it looks like it's supposedly a take of Pinocchio on a darker theme, and it looks really good. And that's Game Pass day one. Overall, like MLD was saying, I mean, Game Pass. If you look ahead, they have Tales of Requiem, Super Bad. Not Super Bad. What's the name of the game with the gun with the guy that shoot? High Life. High Life.
Yeah.
Lies of P. And there's a bunch of these games that are day one that really do fill in the spots for a very lackluster year in terms of AAA. As we talk pretty much ad nauseum, 2023 is going to be a pretty special year for Xbox. I think that we all kind of know that. Aside from our frustrations of dealing with delays and everything that's happened this year, I think Game Pass has been that buffer that really kind of has settled down the Xbox fan, and I think that they can see now the trajectory of this all, and it's going to be a pretty powerful year. I really think that they're gearing up for it. They see it, we see it. A very strong showing at Gamescom, and again, Microsoft seems to be just. Despite some of the stuff that's happened and the delays and some of the bad news that they've gotten, they really seem to keep it together here, and they're really set to just dominate. I really think in 2023, you got Stalker 2, you got the 3 games that the 2 games of the delayed Starfield and Redfall, Forza.
I
That's
think you can count Forza as a delayed game.
Yeah, so you're talking about, a ton of games coming in the next 12 months, or even now it's 10 months, that are really going to make, I think Xbox, really start to turn its burners on, and I think that they'll have on the other side of the holiday season. I do think that they'll have maybe a Hellblade 2, maybe an Outer Worlds 2. I don't know. One of those games that have been announced that we've seen. One of them's gonna hit, and they also have the Activision deal if that gets done. So So for me, this Gamescom was a pleasant surprise. I really felt like Microsoft did a great job, and it was a really strong week. We're going to go into the other things that went on during the week that were, even bigger than this, but uh, just a really strong week for Xbox, strong Gamescom. Shout out to Aaron Greenberg, who once again shows he's the man of the people, the fans. People don't know this about Aaron, but he does a lot of things that go behind the scenes. And I heard what he did with beating up with some of the gamers and just hanging out with them like everyday people. And, you don't see that a lot. And that's what Aaron was doing, basically. He was hanging out with Xbox gamers from all and, he does a great job. And, they show that they care about the fans and especially Aaron. He really does. Like, he hangs out like we hang out here. And it's like, he's like the type, so let's get a drink after the show, or let's meet up here. And he actually does meet up, and, he's not above it all. And just kudos to just the whole Microsoft team out there that did a great job this week. And just Xbox, I really felt like they had a strong showing. Personal favorites of mine of the show. I liked the Killer Clowns. I think that looks like really cool. And Liza P, I never played Bloodborne. It definitely looks cool, but I'm definitely gonna, it's great that that's day one. I don't know how they got that game day one, but that's a big, big pickup and something that they needed to do to kind of, bridge this time where, they can have their own exclusives hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's too bad that there weren't any really big announcements there. We're used to having like a couple of them, going back a few years ago. I remember, there was one year where, they announced a few games like Fable Legends and so on. There was a couple of years where Gamescom again was, it wasn't like on par for E3, but there used to be a couple of announcements where you could be like, ooh, ah. So, I understand the situation completely, obviously. It's nice to see Gamescom back in action. It's still not the same, and we still got a long way to go for, the games and whatnot. Hopefully get some more release dates for the big ones in the coming months. But as for me, I would say the things that I liked were the Game Pass announcements too, as you were saying, Tim, and MLD Life of P. I'm really, really struck by this game. I'm not huge on like the Soulsborne games, but it does give those vibes, and I really like the design choices for the game and just the overall like story, like the premise. Again, this whole take on Pinocchio, it has me kind of interested on that. But then there's all these other games that they're adding, like You Suck at Parking. I just think that that's kind of a funny game. Or there's a game that was really popular on PC, which I think is a part of the PC Game Pass, Proteus. It's like an old school kind of Doom shooter. That really caught my eye. It's going to be coming to console in a few months, apparently. I don't think there's a release date. But you got all these games coming, and I'm like, oh, man, that's awesome. That's awesome. They all look pretty cool. High on Life, I'm kind of mixed on, to be honest. Like, I think the art style's cool. I really like the colors. I'm a big fan of presentation that way. But I don't know, like, again, I'll be honest, I haven't really watched Rick and Morty, so I can't really, I'm still not used to like the humor and whatnot. Like, like it's either gonna go like one way for me. Like, I don't know, like I'm either gonna really like it or really hate it. I don't know, just by the dialogue. But I don't know, we'll see what happens. I am interested in checking it out though. I'm curious. Let's see who we got here. Centurion Pal. What did you think of all the announcements that came out? Anything catch your eye at all?
Well, like I said on Gaming Beyond the Box with Wilmy Hood, I am like a bicycle when it comes to gaming. Every game gets a ride kind of thing, that just, I don't limit myself to, oh, come on, I got ADHD. I got to play everything and anything as much as I can. dude, gaming is an absolute blast to me. There was a lot of stuff on there. Tim Dog mentioned High on Life. I'm curious on the Killer Clowns thing, but the developer from Friday the 13th is the one that's doing that. We all know what happened with Friday the 13th. They did do Predator Hunting Grounds. I'm hoping this is like their breakout game to kind of, get away from all the, at least the stuff that they have had happen to them while doing games that require a large amount of licensing. They've definitely hit some troubles with just how difficult it can be to deal with a game that has licensing behind it. I'm excited. Like, I got excited to see the Dying Light 2 DLC. I'm excited for Dead Island 2. I love the Dead Island series. I know that particular game itself has been through actual development hell. Like you said, it possibly changed hands. But being a movie buff and like a big film critic in my own mind, there's lots of movies that are extremely popular that had a lot of development hell. We're talking like the original Nightmare on Elm Street, James Cameron's Aliens, Ghostbusters even went through development hell, and we all saw them knock it out of the park. You never know. Just because something went through development hell, had a very large uphill battle to be pushed out into the consumer market. For me, I'm gonna wait to see this game come out, and I might pick it up day one, depending on other stuff that's shown between now and then. But I'm excited for Dying Light 2, and you never know. The game could probably be a knockout game. I mean, I'm excited for what I'm seeing already. So, another game that I am excited for is the Harry Potter game, Hogwarts Legacy. That game, for some reason, I just want to. I love the Wizarding world. Say what you want. It's definitely an intriguing world to me. I'm looking forward to that. Obviously, Callisto Protocol is going to be my game for this holiday season. Gotham Knights, that game was not on my radar, but now that I've seen more of it, and I mean, like, I'm really kind of like on the fence now with Gotham Knights.
Now, if I may interject, what do you think about PlayStation getting like an extra quest for Hogwarts?
We'll get in later, but obviously, PlayStation needs that money right now. So because they're shelling it out for dumb shit like that, I'm sorry. Cool. You got an extra quest. Doesn't mean that I'm going to go buy it on PlayStation. Oh, well. Same, but Darktide, dude. I'm glad they got a little bit more in depth with Darktide.
Yes.
I love how they're calling, like, you're all rejects. Working for what is it? What is the main the Emperor's army? I forget what
faction is that in 40K.
Well, I think it was the Inquisition, if I'm not mistaken. But,
yeah. Okay.
That sounds right.
But the customization though looked pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh, dude! From what I saw, at least, are these the guys that did Vermintide?
Yes.
It's the same studio. Yeah.
Yes. So if it's anything like Vermintide, but now we've got guns and sci-fi. I'm probably gonna end up at least getting a couple friends to download that on Game Pass outside of this show. I know we're all gonna play that game on this show, but I have a few friends that I got to get them to download it, and if need be, when it leaves Game Pass, probably get that game for a few friends, because I mean that game looks like a lot of fun. And then finally, I'm glad that General MLD mentioned it, Dune. I'm really hoping that this Dune game is a decent MMO. I do not I'm sorry for the fans of this game. I have a close friend who loves Conan, the Conan game or whatever the hell that game is. I mean, I tried playing it and oh my God. Huh?
It's a weird game.
It's a weird game, and at times it felt like watching paint dry. And I mean, like, I play Farming Together. I know all about a game that's grinding and time-based and having to actually upgrade your encampment and stuff like that. But to me, it just felt completely lifeless. And I understand that Dune is a desert-style planet. You have the worms. But if you get into the lore of Dune, it's almost like the original Game of Thrones if you really get into it, like the warring families and the different tribes and species that exist on Dune that are caught up in the mists of this giant war, because in the world of Dune, whoever controls the spice controls pretty much controls all of galactic civilization, because to them spice is drugs and everybody's addicted to drugs. I understand it's going to be a survival MMO, because they even represented that in the Dune movie and the other lore that they have surrounding Dune. The concept of how your suit actually, filters your sweat and creates drinkable water, and it also helps you breathe the atmosphere. And that's where I want it to be like Dune, but I don't want it to be where it's a total absolute nightmare of a grind fest, and then the whole planet is just this lifeless ball where literally you get to wander around with your friends and that's it. To me, that was what Conan was, and I could not handle playing Conan. I got bored of it real quick, and I just don't want Dune to turn into that.
No, fair comment. No, like I agree, Dark Tide seems awesome, and I agree, that Doom announcement really surprised me, actually, because I thought, oh, that's a cool concept, survival MMO in the Doom universe. So,
well, if you want to know about my knock your socks off moment, I mean, I was completely floored with the Hideo Kojima podcast. No, I'm joking.
I'm mad no one brought it up yet.
Oh,
He came
dude,
on stage, pitched a podcast, and left. What a legend in the gaming community.
Oh my God, I'm
what
sorry.
A legend,
dude. I mean, like, I'm sorry. I had to walk. I'm not trying to pick on Hideo Kojima. He's a great person in his own right, but it's just the fact that Jeff Keighley brings that dude everywhere he can, and it turns into that moment like when The Rock made that comment in wrestling where he's like, oh, I'm gonna go take a piss. And you're just like, oh man, okay, it's Kojima. I'm gonna take a break for a second, because you just knew, you knew he was gonna pop up, because that's just how Jeff Keighley rolls. So
well, it's worse. He was hyping it up the whole day.
Oh, I know.
He was like, I cut a trailer for this and everything.
Yeah, well, that's Kojima for you. That's Kojima.
Dude, no, but my question is, was this Kojima or was this Jeff Keighley? I really want to know who's the mastermind behind this.
I think Kojima is like Japanese Jeff Keighley. Like, they have the same brain, right? like I fully believe that one of them said, "Hey, we should, do you have anything to do?" And one of them was like, "I could show." Like, he was probably, "I gotta show my podcast." They were like, "Yeah, that'd be funny. Let's do it." Like I don't think it was any one or the other. You know what I mean? I think that like one of them pitched it, and the other one was like, "Oh, that's hilarious. Let's do it."
I don't know. As soon as I saw him start talking, we're like, well, I got to see this guy help me close out the show back in 2019. I'm like, oh, here comes Hideo.
Yeah, no, that was interesting. When I saw that come up on like the news feed there, I was like, what? Kojima in a podcast? Really? I mean, that's making the news rounds. I mean, I guess that's cool. I know that there's a lot of Kojima fans out there. I'm just saying, well, I would have preferred something more game announcement related or trailer, but
I'm not trying to be mean at that whole I mean, like I said, Hideo Kojima's a great person in his own rights, but how do you have a podcast? Like, I know it, like, I'm not saying that he can't speak English, but we all know English is a second language. So this would be a podcast for English speakers where they would have to literally, this would not be a podcast that you could kick on at work and listen to him unless he has some person translating the whole thing for him in the background. So you wouldn't probably be able to watch live. No matter what, you're going to have subtitles, and this is going to be a podcast where you would have to have the screen physically on and you paying attention. And that, I'm going to be honest, a majority of my podcast listening takes place at work on a speaker. I'm not even looking at my phone.
Yeah, it was, now that you say that, it is really weird that he pitched his podcast at an English speaking event. You're not wrong. Like, yeah. Like, I mean, it's a big event, and I'm sure people all around the globe are watching it because it's going to be translated all around the globe. You know what I mean? And so, like, people in Japan were watching Gamescom. You know what I mean? So like, it's just you're right. It's weird.
Well, that also just shows you the lack of like really big announcements there that, normally, it wouldn't make a difference at these kinds of things, but I mean, there wasn't really a big announcement there. So, that's why
Like-
it made the rounds.
Like that said, there are people that will hang on to his every word. So to them, it's like every time he speaks, it's like Christmas to them. So it's like, I don't know. I don't. He's a great guy in the industry, but I don't know if I could listen to him every week talk about just random gaming
dude.
thoughts.
Well, he's
I
just
feel-
a very iconic figure that a lot of people go crazy for. I mean, personally, and probably everyone on this podcast maybe doesn't feel that way, but he does have a lot of fanatical fans, fans that love him to death, and they have like this, like he's it goes above normal reaction with him. He's one of those figures that gets that type of reaction, and listen, at the end of the day, he's a huge entity in gaming, and with Xbox, I'm really curious to see what he's going to do. He's not been, I'm not going to say his games have been my favorite, but I could definitely see that the guy, carries a certain type of, following. Just look at how Jeff acts. I mean, I like Jeff, but Jeff acts like a kid around him, and he's at a candy store. He's so happy, and I just think he's just an iconic gaming figure, a gaming character, or whatever you want to say, figure in the industry. And he always does these things though that are a little head scratching. So it's never, and I think that's the charm of him, or that's the thing that people like. He's very unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that he has a fanatic fan base. And then General MLD, said that this fan base hangs on his every single word. I think it's interesting that he has a fan base like that, considering everybody here could probably admit Hideo Kojima is actually a developer known for trolling his fans. And I don't mean like trolling in a bad way, but I mean like hyping the hell out of a podcast and making it seem like it's something else before everybody knew it was a podcast. Or, it just seems very funny that literally he has done things, especially recently, with like Death Stranding going to Game Pass, and like now all of a sudden we're seeing people, Game Pass PC, let's be exact, people saying stuff like, oh, Hideo Kojima's a sellout, he's greedy because he doesn't want to keep his games locked down to a single platform. And that's where it's just funny that Hideo Kojima has somehow convinced all these people that he is this glorious white knight for a different platform that they prefer to play on, when he has never said anything of the sort.
He just he loves gaming, and I think that there is a very distinct difference between like some of those fanatics that got mad about the Xbox stuff and some of his like and a lot of his core fans, because like I see a lot of his like core fans, they buy like every edition of the game on every platform, like I do with Mass Effect, right? And
wait a minute, you own that game on more than one platform?
I own Mass Effect the Legendary Edition on Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation.
Huh.
Damn, that's devotion.
I am missing 2 achievements on Xbox, and I have all the platinums on PlayStation.
Wow.
The achievements that I was missing on Xbox, the only 2 were both bugged when the game first came out. Now they're fixed, so I just haven't gone back on Xbox to get them. And I will be getting all of the achievements on Steam. But like he has a lot of fanatic fans, and like part of why they like them is he feels like a person, right? He feels fun. When he's trolling, you don't really get mad because like it's all fun. You know what I mean? Like it's like a big joke, and like it's
part of his sick.
Phil is like this. It's why we like Phil. He feels like a human being. You know what I mean? Like someone that you would probably enjoy hanging out with. You know what I mean?
I think that's a good point. Yeah, and kind of like the trolling part, and like how the stuff that kind of brings a smile to your face. I mean, instead of getting mad, you kind of laugh it off. But it's kind of like his shtick. It's kind of like how he is.
Like,
And
because when he's going to announce his next game, Tim, like when he actually announces and shows his next game, people are going to go nuts, right?
oh yeah,
And
he has a couple, I think. So it's
yeah,
gonna
he
be
does. And when he announces them, people are going to go nuts. They're going to be excited. And until then, he's going to do all this stupid crap. People are going to go nuts and get excited because, like, Lamau, it's hilarious, you know?
Now, sticking with that Crusader, like, I don't know, what, besides the
All right.
Kojima stuff that got
I'm
announced,
Debbie Downer.
like, what,
I'm Debbie
yeah,
Downer.
please, like, give us your thoughts. I want you to be honest. What, you know?
There was a, this showcase was okay, right? It was okay. There was some good stuff. I'm not going to reiterate every game that you guys have mentioned, right? I like Callisto Protocol, High on Life. Lies of P looked great. I'm not a Souls-like fan, so it's not a game for me, right? I will not be playing it, but I'm excited for the people who are excited for it because it looks very good. I want to say I saw something about maybe at like a different day at Gamescom that wasn't at opening night, but something was shown about Atomic Heart. Did I hear that right?
Oh,
There was
yes,
a new...
yes.
Yeah, that I'm excited for.
That looked so good.
That looked good. But I mean, my favorite part of opening night day, like in Gamescom in general, was a event that wasn't actually part of Gamescom. But it happened at the same time. And that was the Future of Destiny event that Bungie did. And it was great. Wasn't part of Gamescom, happened the same day as opening night.
Fill us in on that because I didn't see any of that.
So they announced the new Lightfall expansion that's coming out next February, right? It's gonna be every platform, no Sony exclusivity, no unique items for Sony platform versus Xbox platform. Bungie promised us they never doing that bullshit again because everyone hated it, including them. So, and they announced that we're going to a brand new destination. We're going to Cloud City from Star Wars meets futuristic cyberpunk city like Cyberpunk 2077, floating city on Neptune, in the clouds of Neptune. And we're going and we're getting a brand new subclass that basically gives you like a grappling hook, kind of like Spider-Man's swinging ability. And they announced and showed off all of that. King's Fall, they announced King's Fall from Destiny 1 was coming back into Destiny 2. That raid race just happened like 2 days ago. Clan Elysium got the three-peat. They won the third raid race that they've won in a row. They showed off like all of they announced it's coming to the Epic Games Store, and we got Destiny characters in Fortnite. We got Fortnite themed armor in Destiny that hilariously somehow looks great. Like everyone was like, Fortnite armor in Destiny, and then they showed it, and they were like, oh my god, this looks great. Why does this look so good? Like, we all were. And like Fall Guys, shit's coming to Fall Guys. They came to the Epic Games Store. They announced, for people who are mad that Destiny takes away the expansions and like they vault the expansions, Destiny is no longer vaulting expansions. They want it to be one experience that you can play definitively from start to finish. And they are going, it sounded like they are going to work on bringing the ones that they already vaulted back. Seasons are still subject to vaulting and like their content rotating, just like any game like Fortnite where the map changes and stuff goes away, and or like Warzone and stuff like that.
Can I interject on you real
yeah,
quick? Does that mean
yeah.
they're gonna fix the new player experience?
So they have, they have. It's bad. My friend just came back, right? He came back after watching that stream, and he's like, I gotta play again. And like Mooch also was like, I gotta come back. If you guys know Mooch over on the Crossfire podcast, and so I've been carrying new people through new content. And man, the new light content really needs work. And they did say that they are committed to improving the new player experience like indefinitely, right? Like they are never going to be done making that better. So they didn't have like anything strong looking like it's going to be like absolutely like fixed and wonderful like next year. But like they're bringing in an LFG service. Any of you know what an LFG service is?
No.
It's for like in MMOs and other games where there's like hard content that you can't really do traditional matchmaking for, like just randomly matching people up together ain't gonna work because you need communication and stuff like that. They're
Isn't
adding an
that what
actual.
Xbox used to have?
Yes, Xbox
Yeah.
has it. It's great. If you're
Yeah.
playing Destiny on Xbox right now, you'd better be using that integrated LFG service. It's the best. Thank you, Tim.
Well,
Okay,
I
so-
remember,
Okay,
I remember
so
that was
looking
a
for
big
group
thing.
then.
Yeah, looking for
Yeah.
group.
Oh, okay.
LFM looking for more.
You would see like your friend pop up, friend Crusader looking for whatever, and then
Yeah.
I remember.
And like you can post exactly what you're looking for, right? Like you can put like the title of it on Xbox, and you can be like, running King's Fall fresh. Need 2 more people, right? So they know exactly what you're looking for, and like you can state that like like a hunter and a warlock would be preferable because like you're trying to even out your party, right? And people can respond to that, and then instead of just immediately accepting them, you can kind of look through their profile, make sure that they check out that they've run the raid before, or if you're willing to teach, they haven't run the raid before. Maybe you're trying to teach some new people, so you want to check to make sure they haven't done this before. And like that's what like an LFG system is. They're also called like party finders in like other MMOs. Like if you play Final Fantasy 14, they have like a party finder system. This is a big system that Destiny's been missing, and they announced it. And he's a big used to be a big Destiny streamer, T-Rex. He was part of like Rare Drop, and they created like the Destiny convention that turned into like the big St. Jude's thing that they do every summer, and they raised like $3 million with like Dr. Lupo and everyone for St. Jude's. Well, he quit streaming, and he actually went to work at Bungie, and he wouldn't tell anyone what he was working on. He kept it super secret. And he got to finally announce that, like, it was like the Thanos meme, the fine, I'll do it myself, because he's wanted an LFG system in the game for so long that he went to Bungie to create this LFG system. And so the event was fantastic.
Oh, well, that's awesome. No, glad to hear
Yeah.
it.
From what I've seen about like the Destiny trailers, I'm intrigued to get back in, but I haven't wanted to get over that hurdle of buying content that they plan to take away in the future.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I don't like is the whole concept of, if you play Destiny, this better be your game that you play exclusively, because you're never going to have time for anything else if you want to feel like you got your money's worth out of the content.
So the seasons will still be going away, like kind of like any other game, right? Or like the battle passes go away and stuff like that, right? But the main expansions, the big story expansions of the year, are permanent now. And that was so like every time Bungie does one of these events, they have some kind of oh shit and everyone's screaming moment, right? Because like they did something wild. A couple years back, it was when they added crossplay and cross progression, and like anyone could play with anyone, because that was like probably the best thing that's ever happened to the video game, right? That like matchmaking, I can. There's never like a wait time, right? Because like PlayStation's playing with Xbox, is playing with Steam, is playing with the Windows Store, is playing with Epic, is playing with Stadia, right? Like we all one big happy family now in Destiny land. And then like one of the big oh shit moments in like one of the last ones was that they were bringing back the Vault of Glass, because if you've ever played Destiny 1, the Vault of Glass was the first raid that they ever created. It kind of like is what set Destiny apart as a video game, because there's nothing quite like a Destiny raid, right? Other MMOs got raids, but Destiny's like the only first-person MMO, right? Like it's the only game of its kind, and it sets itself apart with these fantastic raids and this great endgame content. And so when they told us Vault of Glass was coming back, my friends and I, we were all screaming. We were so excited to go back to relive those memories. And this one today, like at this event, was that they are not vaulting content, or they're not vaulting story content anymore. And it kind of sounded like that old story content, maybe even from Destiny 1, from like the major expansions, might be returning eventually, right? They didn't say anything, but the way that they were like, yeah, we want this to be the like one definitive Destiny experience. Yeah, I could see them porting in the stuff, because they're running out of raids to port in. So maybe the story content's coming.
That would be interesting.
I hope they do. I mean, Dude, one thing I got aggravated, I guess that was what made me really want to give up, is when I was already aggravated that they killed off Cade 6.
Yeah.
Sorry, not trying to give out spoilers if you haven't done it, but
It ain't in the game anymore, man. You're
I
right.
know,
Like,
I know.
That
It's
was
like
the last thing vaulted.
and that's what I mean. You can't even say it's a spoiler now
Yeah.
because it's like, dude, the only way you're gonna know is if I freaking tell you. Like Cade 6 is pretty much canon at this point.
Yeah, they got the Sony. See, like the biggest problem was, right? They were an independent studio, and they were basically living sales to sales on everything, right? Like if they had the slightest fuck up, it could fuck them up royally, right? And sorry, my filter is turned off. I'm so tired. For anyone who doesn't like cursing in chat, I apologize. But you know, their biggest thing was, it's not that they could avoid the not vaulting content, right? Like they just didn't have the money to rewrite. They rewrite significant portions of their engine every release, right? Like they rewrite tons of stuff on the back end, and we see it with like how many more people, like how many more enemies they're putting in content, and like all of the crazy new abilities that even they're reworking like the old like subclasses and giving us all kinds of crazy stuff, because like every subclass is different now. Like all the original ones, they're all like totally modifiable, and like every element has like crazy keywords that do different things, and like the game has like huge builds and stuff. So like we saw the benefit of like them being able to like rewrite the game and not having to rewrite everything, right? That's why they were vaulting stuff, so that they didn't have to worry about rewriting all of the game, but they could still keep the core of the game going. And well, they got Sony money now, right? Like they have that backing, that if like they have like one or two bad releases in a row, that it's not going to kill them, right? That like as long as they are still doing good on the up and up, and like their major expansions are still as fire as they've been in the past couple years, they'll be fine, right? And so I definitely think that now that they got that Sony backing, that they're gonna that like this is why we saw this announcement today. You know what or like I say today, but this is why we saw it, because they don't have that insecurity anymore. And like we're gonna see the same thing from Xbox with like the Bethesda studios, right? We're gonna see the same thing with from like the Activision studios when they come into Bethesda. Even though Activision, they're all kind of secure, but like that's why like all of the all of the money was being put in the Call of Duty pot, right? Because Call of Duty is like the most safe and secure thing in the world, because even when it sells poorly like the Vanguard did, they're still like the second most best-selling game of the year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they can afford when you got the backing of like a with Sony, you got the backing of a what 8-digit, 9-digit, $100 billion company, right? $150 billion company. When like the backing of Microsoft, you got the backing of like a $2.5 trillion company, right? So like there's a lot of security in the little things that you could, even if they don't pan out, you can do them, and it's the loss isn't really bad. You just try again the next time. You know what I mean? But like when you're a smaller company, you can't really do that. You know what I mean? You can't necessarily, like, you can't afford to screw up. And so if there's ways that you can mitigate you screwing up, you're going to do them. And that's what caused the whole vaulting thing in the first place. Now we don't got to do it, and everyone's cheering. It's great.
Now, guys, I have to chime in here. I mean, obviously, we were talking about Gamescom, and then, obviously the Destiny news as well at, their separate thing. But there was another bit of news that kind of came up at the same time a couple of days ago. And remember, there were reports, and they seemed legitimate at first, about EA buying Amazon. And I was just like,
God.
what the heck? Like
3-hour period.
Yeah. I mean, it seemed like there was corroboration going on, and everything seemed like it was legit. And then they had, certain outlets had to backtrack, and it was kind of embarrassing. But I don't know. I mean, we all know that EA, they do want to be bought from the sounds of things.
They get sold, and then it fell through or something.
So they were trying to merge with Comcast originally,
Right.
and it fell through. And it's because I don't know the CEO of EA's name. I think it's Andrew something. I don't remember. He wants to, if there's any kind of merger that happens, of the merged company, he wants to remain the CEO, and he wants the EA shareholders to have the majority voting power. And Comcast didn't want that, and that's why that deal fell through. I assume with Amazon that the voting power is out the window. EA is nowhere in comparison to Amazon's market cap, not even close. Like, sorry, buds. But I assume that he wants to remain the CEO of EA underneath Amazon. And some people are like, a CEO underneath a company? That happens all the time. There's a CEO of LinkedIn under Microsoft right now.
Right.
And probably they probably want to replace the management of EA and stuff like that. And he's been one of the better CEOs that EA's ever had. There's been a lot of changes that have happened under the current CEO of EA, where like we've seen like a change of like BioWare's allowed to make single player games, and like Respawn can do whatever they want and stuff like that. And so they want to sell, but they want strict terms with their sale. So like that's why like I don't even know if I expect them to sell, right? Like I don't know if I expect anyone to agree to the terms that they want.
Right, but so for me, listen, when I saw the deal, it made sense, and I do think that Amazon should do a deal like that. That's a perfect way for them to really jump into gaming. Listen, when Google came out, we all heard how Microsoft and Sony were, crapping their pants, and they were worried, and they were. But
Yeah.
Google really didn't take that step to where they never made that move where you were like, okay, here we are, we're in business. And I think the same goes for Amazon right now. Amazon's there. Yeah, Luna's a nice product, but not a lot of people know about it. Kind of a weird name. I'm sure it's not doing great numbers, but you add Madden. What?
They have Twitch. They own Twitch, the biggest streaming service.
That's big, right? But I'm talking about like, as far as like in gaming, as far as like matching up with Sony and Microsoft's, they're not close there. But if they had gotten EA, I think that really for their subscription service of Luna really adds a lot of value to it, because that, hey, I'm getting Madden every year. I'm getting Star Wars games from Respawn day one. And, I think that at that point, they could really start to become a player, and a couple more moves, really, cooking with fire. But they didn't make the deal, so now they're back to square one. But I do think that if Amazon or Google really wants to get to, in terms of, with gaming, obviously they have Twitch, which is great, Amazon. But when we talk about game, exactly, you can integrate it, and they want to like have that where people are coming to their service, using their cloud, playing their games. They have to make a deal like that. And EA, to me, makes a lot of sense for any of that. It makes a lot of sense for Microsoft, in my opinion. Yeah. Because it is a subscription service. It's a subscription service ready type deal. I mean, they would get EA, and obviously they're not going to make exclusive games with it. But Game Pass, day one, Game Pass Madden, day one, Respawn games. It would be a huge deal. And really solidify I think they would have problems maybe with
definite problems
with regulation, but Amazon, they wouldn't have that problem. I think that people would say, hey, give them a fair shake. This is their step into gaming. Let's get it on. And I don't know. Maybe the deal is still being talked, or sometimes you get grumblings and they say, "Oh, it's not going to happen." 3 months go by and the deal happens. So I wouldn't write it off, but to me, it makes a ton of sense for Amazon if they really want to be about it. You know what I mean?
The only thing that I think could really backfire is if they tried to make it so that EA was only on their Luna service, and I think that would make a lot of people mad, and they'd end up losing a lot of money.
Oh, forget about it. They would have to make it multiplayer. But
it would have to be like, oh, it's coming to Luna in addition, right?
Yeah. If they want Luna subscription, you get it. Maybe a little perks here and there. But yeah, if they try to go exclusive with it, It would get, they make so much money on microtransactions. They would never do that with the MUT and stuff like that. But
I just
I
don't think
honestly,
they would make money. I don't think that even with smaller games, with like the non-MTX ones, like you know what I mean. Like I don't think they would make money with like Mass Effect and stuff like that.
well, I mean, listen, if Luna had Madden, and their service was, I don't know what their pricing on Luna is right now, but it would make
I
me
will look that up for you.
It would make me look at Luna just because I play Madden, and I do feel like Madden is kind of overpriced, uh, as it is. But if you get it included with service, uh, you know, it would open things up. So I just think, if Amazon really wants to be a player, they got to make a deal like that. But it seems like EA is like really chomping on the bit to, either get,
They want to get bought.
restructured or they want to get bought. And I don't know what that says. I think that they got a strong company in a lot of aspects. Respawn was a great pickup for them. They have Madden and, they have pretty much a monopoly there. What else do they make that's big?
Need for Speed.
Well, yeah, they would have to, they gotta, that used to be huge.
Oh yeah, they bought Codemasters. Keep that in mind too.
Yeah, they bought Codemasters. I don't know. I think, like I said, I think EA makes a lot of sense for Amazon, and it also makes sense for Microsoft. If I was Microsoft and we get past this, and they get past this whole regulation, which is going to be tough. The idea is, and from what I've gathered and what I've heard, is that Microsoft might go for a double down deal because they see it, they see where this is going, they see the position that they're in, they see that they're Satya is he really sees growth in gaming and he's all in now. Another deal is I would say not off the table, as crazy as that sounds. And that's what, I've talked to some people who have really good industry contacts, not from Xbox, but people with good industry contacts. And I have some candid conversations with them.
Right.
And, that's probably an idea that they might go, a double down route, or a double down route, and for me, it does make sense. EA would make sense for Microsoft. As I explained, it would probably, like Crusader said, be hard to get past because now
Specifically,
you're
the EA Play part, they would be taking a service competitor off the market, and that's probably a big no-no.
yeah, exactly, and I agree. So you're probably not going to see it, but yeah, I would think that Amazon. If I love Albert Pinello, one of my good friends. He's done a great job there, but to be honest, do I think Luna is making any kind of indentations in the gaming market? No, I feel like Amazon and Google are just like they're there, but they're not, and it's basically Microsoft is the huge lead, and Sony just like fluttering, and Nintendo's Nintendo. So I do think there's room for those guys, but you gotta be in it to be in it. You gotta make plays, and I just don't know if they're ready to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they are.
Their big problem is their services. They are the only way to access what they're doing, right? Like with Xbox, right? xCloud, or whatever you want to call it, Game Cloud streaming, the worst name that they could just call it xCloud.
Now it's xCloud again.
So with xCloud, right? You can use it completely supplementary, right? Like I can buy all my games on my console and I can use Game Pass and everything. And then I can use xCloud as like an option for when I'm not around my console or the TV's not available or stuff like that, right? But with Luna's the only way you're accessing your content. You know what I mean? There is no download and play option. There is only the streaming option. And I think that's the biggest thing that's going to hold those services back for a long time. Like I don't think xCloud for a long time is going to be used as just xCloud, because there are there are fundamental problems with network infrastructure that are going to prevent it from taking off in a lot of areas, because you have to be close enough to a data center, and you have to have a good enough bandwidth to get your data, to get enough data in and out from that data center, in a reasonable enough time. So you're gonna have these problems, and so that limits your market. But Microsoft was very smart, and they made it they made it something that you can come in and it can be your primary, or you can use it completely supplementary, right? Like I use it supplementary, and that's
Same
how
here.
it's great.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a lot of people were saying, oh, this is only going to be a primary. People who said the cloud is the future. I got news for you. It is the future. It's just that it's slowly adapting, and it does have some things that right now are preventing it from really jumping off. But right now, as you said, it's for a secondary use. I was a perfect example. I'm at my uncle's house this weekend. Went to the Giant team. He has no Xbox, he doesn't have no internet like that, or or something. He doesn't, whatever the case. So I have a 5G connection off of my wireless service. Guess what I did? I played this fight Midnight Express fight, which is awesome. Fight game, and I played my favorite a little bit of, I cleaned up some power wash and some but it's great to have there as an option when you don't have the option to have a console. And most people use it that way, and it is a great complementary thing. It is not a solely solely to be used alone, maybe in the future. But like I said, I was playing Midnight Express fight. I forgot. I don't know if that's the correct name, but I was playing it strictly on my phone with no controller, just by touch, and I was enjoying it. And I'm like, holy crap! I'm playing this game. I'm like, holy crap! This is
Fight Express.
Yeah, thank you. So you could see that down the line, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, internet connections are going to be more readily available. They're going to be better. The technology is going to be better. The devices are going to be better. It's going to be easier to use streaming and xCloud and do all that. But right now, Xbox has a running start with this, and there is added value with xCloud, and the numbers are proving it. Each month they're growing. So we're going to talk about, maybe we'll talk about it down the line with one of the other subjects, but they're gonna be, their monthly active users are gonna go way up with Family Plan and xCloud and certain things like that. To me, they're just really set up for the future in a unique fashion compared to the competition.
Right.
So if what I think is really going to help with the bandwidth situation and the infrastructure, at least in the United States, when it comes to delivering proper internet speeds for people to be able to use xCloud and other services that require a decent internet connection, is having more competitors enter into the market when it comes to internet providers. And we're already starting to see that with Verizon and I think T-Mobile with the introduction of the 5G services. And so now cell phone companies are starting to deliver home internet that is practically capable of giving giving enough bandwidth for xCloud to work. And given enough years, I see basically, going to your traditional internet providers that have cables in the ground are going to pretty much start becoming more like a dinosaur style thing. Because it's kind of interesting. There is some internet providers, even though they have cables in the ground, they're still delivering satellite-based internet. It's just a very massive satellite compared to the one that's in your pocket. I really agree with you, Tim, that I really see xCloud becoming a bigger thing and becoming more mainstream as these cell phone companies start delivering better internet options for us here in the United States. And another thing to think about is we've seen a number of emerging services, God forgive me, doesn't T-Mobile already team up with Game Pass, actually?
Probably. Verizon has All Access. like the Xbox All Access program.
Okay, because we've seen it with Discovery Plus. We saw it with Disney Plus. I even think some provider has Netflix. We already know that pretty soon, like xCloud is going to be one of those. Hey, get a cell phone with us, and we'll give you xCloud with it. And we're going to start seeing. We already know that xCloud is coming to televisions. So we are on the cusp of things happening with how games are delivered. Might not be next year or the year after that, but definitely within the next 5 to 10 years, the way people are going to consume gaming is going to change. I'm not saying they're going to get rid of hardware, but what I'm saying is that there is going to be a demographic of consumer out there that is just fine not having a physical piece of hardware in their home to deliver gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, I got the Samsung TV coming. The OLED with the embedded app.
Yeah, you just go ahead and rub it in there.
No, I got it. My wife flew out the OLED in the C8. She got bad with burn, and I had an excuse.
You just hand her a golf club or a large. Hey, babe, just start swinging this around.
I
Oh,
listen,
damn! You hit the TV. That sucks.
Well, not gonna get a new one, but yeah, no, you make great points. Unfortunately, the company that I work for prevents me to really elaborate on what we were just talking about. But I agree, your sentiment is right there with it. You know what I mean? The future is, in my opinion, is pretty easy to see. You look at devices. Let's just take devices, phones, cell phones. Each year they get bigger and better screens, faster processors, more RAM. The devices are going to become, more, just easily more accessible, and just anything in tech. Tech rolls, tech improves, and it expands. Like I see Candy Crush. That's very interesting. I don't know if that's in the thing, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. But because Candy Crush is coming to Xbox most likely. Now, the most viable way for me to play Candy Crush is on my phone, right? So now, if I'm playing XCloud on my phone with touch controls, Candy Crush, that's a win for me. You know what I mean? So you're going to see more and more like that. You're going to see more and more games. Some games that were traditionally cell phone games, I do believe will come to XCloud, and you might have some XCloud exclusives, but they're going to be cell phone game based, like Candy Crush or stuff like that. I think most will come to console, but we're going to go into Phil's comments shortly, but I think this is where you get into this world where a device is device, and your content is really king. And that's where I see it going, and I think it's pretty clear. And I think like when we go, maybe it's a segue. We can go into it. Invader. That's what Phil's comments were basically saying.
Yeah, speaking of which, I think you're right to do that, Tim. But either way, I think the whole EA, I just kind of brought it up, but the whole EA Amazon thing kind of like triggered a whole lot of different discussions going on, especially about the cloud stuff too and competition there. It really, it gets you thinking about a whole slew of things. But yeah, guys, I mean, we'll move on to our next topic here. But just a reminder, hey, if you're enjoying our chat, give the show a like, and hey, share this out. Let everybody know that we are live, because we are having a really awesome discussion here. But yeah, on to the other bits of news. And CEO of gaming, Microsoft Gaming, Phil Spencer, recently did an interview with outlet Bloomberg, kind of out of nowhere. We weren't expecting that, but it kind of dropped before Gamescom or during Gamescom, where he commented on a variety of things, such as the progress on the Activision Blizzard deal, game exclusivity, the application of NFTs and blockchain, and more. Tim, again, I'll pick on you first for this one, because I know you got a lot to say, and then we'll make our way down the list of the panel. A lot of chatter came up about, for example, game exclusivity in particular. Do you agree with Phil's comments that console exclusives are something that we're just going to see less and less of in the future?
Listen, I think when he says console exclusive, I think he's more saying device, device exclusive. I think when you say, you bring it to PC and you bring it to xCloud and all the ways that you could play, it's not tied to one device. And I think that's what Phil's kind of overall statement was, knowing Phil and how he talks, kind of where he was going. I don't think he was saying, hey, uh, Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be not exclusive. It's coming to PlayStation. Um, I think because of Sony's practices, that Xbox is in a position where they have to have exclusive games, and so Sony's smart for doing that because they have a stable of really talented developers, and they know this is a competition to get the gamer, and that's their calling card. And Xbox, if they were really thinking about just making non-exclusives, you wouldn't see deals like Lies of P and Stalker 2, and there is definitely something to said for exclusive to your, let's say, ecosystem. It's just that this is becoming such a hard subject to talk about, or to quantify, I guess maybe is the word, because it's now becoming all encompassing. Like, it's more about your ecosystem and your media that you obtain, that you own, that's digitally subscribed to you, than say like a console game disc that goes under your console that you can only play there. It's so, like, Phil is really so far ahead of the game. I remember in 2017, I used to talk to Phil, and he used to talk, like, I would talk to him in DMs, and he would say stuff to me that I wouldn't understand, and I wouldn't be. I'm being honest. Like, he just always kind of like a step ahead. Maybe sometimes that was, a detriment to him in the last generation, because he saw the future real early. He saw where this is all going, and he was the first to really play on it. And he was made fun of, if you not remember, and he was ridiculed, especially in 2017. But it was because he kind of saw this, all device, all encompassing media, take your game where you want, and you're the gamer, you're the center of it all, um, model. And I think that that's where he comes into play here, is that when he talks like that, he just is, now he's 10 years down the line, where he sees hope, maybe where, Sony and Xbox have basically every third party game are have cross play and have cross integration and all this stuff that doesn't really prohibit players from the games. It brings them together in a way. And I think that's where it goes to. But as far as like exclusives, there's always going to be that exclusive. Hey, come into my ecosystem, come and buy my console, buy my service, buy my model. I just think that that's where he's going, and I didn't think there was. If he made those comments in 2017, he'd be really in trouble, because people wouldn't understand. But people now are understanding, and we see it. We see it as believing it, and
Yeah.
you can talk about it all day until you see it and understand it. Then it becomes like kind of second nature. If he said this in 2017, this podcast would have started with this, and it would be a fiery topic, and people wouldn't understand what he meant. But I think in generalization, he's talking about in the device world. It's not going to be exclusive to one area, and in a sense, in a way, in the future, everyone should be able to be playing their games. But there's always going to be exclusive content to get your client to, or your customer to buy in. So as long as Sony's doing it, Xbox is going to do it right back, because if one console has full of exclusives and the other one's all multi-plat, everyone's going to go to these. Hey, I can get all these exclusive plus your games here. So I don't think that he meant all games being multi-plat. Like I said, it was more of a device comment, and with Phil, it's more down the line type thinking, and so far he's been right. He really has been right. I remember, like I said, being a little long-winded with this, but 2017, I said, "Who's the players?" And he says, "Well, I see a future of Tencent." And I'm like, "Who the hell's Tencent?" And he says, "I see them, and look at where they are now." He was right. And so like I said, I think it's nothing to be concerned about. Your Elder Scrolls 6 will be exclusive. The games that we've been announced will be exclusive. Certain other things, possible future acquisitions down the line. Yeah, if they're like, let's say EA, well, if they bought EA, I wouldn't think that anything would be exclusive. Maybe a new IP, but most of the games, Star Wars, Madden, all those will be multi-plat.
Tim, I agree with you a lot. I think there's one piece of this puzzle that we're looking over and that even Sony is doing, right? And it's that there are certain games that exist that they're either getting through these M&A contracts or that they're licensed IPs, and they themselves are almost like a platform in and of themselves. And we've been seeing Microsoft moving in this direction of not really caring about using them for their exclusivity, but treating them themselves as a platform and growing them on every platform, regardless of whether they own it or not. Because for that IP, it's better. The first one we saw it with in 2014 was Minecraft, right?
Mhm.
Everything Minecraft is everywhere. They brought it to Nintendo after the acquisition, and all of the spin-off games have been multi-platform. The stupid little Minecraft Legends game that looks fun as heck, but it ain't there's not real reason it needs to be multi-plat, but because of what its IP is, right? It is. And the second thing we're going to see that with Microsoft is going to be Call of Duty. They he's been talking about how it's multi-plat, and Call of Duty itself, in
100%.
some way, is bigger than Xbox in some way, right? And it's that, like, it is this entity that can exist on its own. I don't want to say it's bigger than Xbox, but it's bigger than being contained by Xbox, right? And so, like, I don't see them ever getting to a point where they want to take that off anything. If anything, they want to go that Minecraft route, and because it's such a platform and such a thing in gaming, that they want to take that and they want it more places because it's more valuable in that way, right? It's more valuable to the gamer, and he even talks about that. And it's like he's talking about how his kid bought one piece of plastic and another kid bought another piece of plastic, and they can't play together because they're on different plastic. And I think that was more what he was going with this, was that, like, there are certain big things in games that they just want to make sure that everyone's playing together. Call of Duty is that, and Minecraft is that on Microsoft's side. And on PlayStation side, we saw it in 2019. We don't have to go to they did it with Bungie, and we'll talk about Bungie. I love Bungie. But they did it before that. They did it in 2019. What game in 2019 did Sony they previously had it as an exclusive, but they announced that it was going to move to be a multi-plat title that they were still going to develop? Does anyone know the game? You love the game, Tim.
The show?
Yes. In 2019, they renegotiated their contract with the MLB because the contract was up and they needed to renegotiate it. And they renegotiated it, and Sony had it as a multi-platform game now, right? That in 2019 they announced it was going to go multi-platform by 2021, right? And we saw it go multi-platform because for Sony, MLB The Show as a platform and like what MLB is was more important to them as a game that they can have the platform that they can turn into a platform and have like the online players all playing together and get all the sales from the microtransactions and stuff like that, right? That was more important to them than having it as exclusive, right? Or else they wouldn't have renewed it. You know what I mean? They just would have given up the contract. But they kept a contract to keep something multi-platform, right? And then we saw it again with Bungie. Buying and owning Bungie was more important to Sony than having Bungie be exclusive, because they're going to be multi-platform in perpetuity, according to Pete Parsons, the CEO of Bungie, right? And so the concept that some of these live service games can be bigger as a platform if they're everywhere than just constraining them to one place, I think is a big thing that we're not only like the only people that I think Tim was really, or not Tim, that I think Phil was really targeting, saying that they're going to be resistant to it, is hilariously Nintendo. I don't. Sony's going to take a little bit more time, right? Because like they're very slow to move into a lot of these things, you know. But they're slowly moving into PC. They're slowly moving into the concept of live service, right? But they're not resistive to it. They just want to go at their own pace so that they can kind of do it their own way. That's how Sony's always been. But like, you know, I can foresee a future where the next MMO that's released from ZeniMax Online is on every platform. Why? It's an MMO. You know what I mean? It would very well do better as a game for its entire community, because it's all like MMOs are driven on how many players you can smash into the game and get playing together, right? I can see a world where Microsoft launches that on PlayStation and the Switch and the Epic Game Store and everywhere they can physically launch it. Why? Because you want with something like that, you want everyone playing together. They're not going to do it with Halo, because Halo has brand association with the Xbox brand, right? Even though it would probably benefit Halo a lot to put it literally everywhere. They're not gonna, because Halo sells Xboxes. They still need, at the end of the day, to sell Xboxes. So it's not going to happen to everything. Sony's not going to put The Last of Us multiplayer game on Xbox. It's never going to happen.
That's what my overall point was. Is like, people were like, "Oh, there's gonna be no more exclusives on Xbox." No, you're gonna have calling cards for Xbox and Sony,
Exactly.
but you'll also have, like you're saying, like these bigger than exclusive. Let's say bigger than exclusive type games where you need more people. Overwatch.
Yeah, Overwatch will probably be one that'll be forever,
example,
in perpetuity, right? Because like it's not bigger than Xbox or PlayStation, but it's bigger than can be contained by them.
Right, it's better off. Let's be honest. Let's talk about the MMO that you're talking about. Now we all know Bethesda games are probably all going to be exclusive because of what they said, but it does make more sense for ZeniMax MMO to be on PlayStation. And for that, as an Xbox fan, you know, as we all are here, I'm okay with that because I think it's better for the game. I don't, you know, it's not about bragging rights. You know, sometimes, you know, I've seen with these platform arguments and stuff like that, like the having the ability to say, I have this is greater than anything, and you don't, is greater than anything, even the game itself. Well, I've come to learn that that's not the truth. You have to do what's best for the game genre and what's best for the game. And in the sense of ZeniMax MMO, yeah, why not? Let Sony have it. Like, as if I'm getting a game, I'm more at the point where if I'm getting the game day one on Game Pass, I'm even more inclined to have it say be on xCloud day one versus say having it be on another platform. Like I'm caring less and less if it's an exclusive. I think Xbox, you always have to have an exclusives and stuff to calling cards to your system to draw in your, you know, your certain diehards and stuff like that. But you know, more and more of that the stuff like I talk about Game Pass, xCloud, that's cross buy, that stuff, you know, is more interesting for me and more of a takeaway than anything because it affects me. You know, it emboldens me. I have this game on PC. I have this game on cloud. I have this game day one. That's huge for me as a gamer.
Puerto Rock. I don't know if you guys know who Puerto Rock is. He and I recently made up.
Sure.
We made nice and apologized to each other.
Well, I had a fight?
Well, so he had in his, like, you know how he does a little bit of the console war, but he's never real too serious with it and stuff like that. he had been calling out some people who were being nasty to Digital Foundry on the Xbox side, and he assumed one of my tweets was, but I was actually having a nice conversation with him, and my name was the only one he didn't like blank out. And so I was, from some of his rabid fans, and he even admitted,
Oh, I
he's like, I got some
remember.
rabid fans, he's like, I got some people that like that aren't very nice. Like, I was getting messages, kill yourself, corporate slave, and stuff like that in my DMs, and I got real mad and called him out. We ended up blocking each other, right? But on Mooch's podcast, everyone kind of had a big kumbaya last Friday, and like after the podcast, I hopped in the post show and like also had a kumbaya apology with Puerto Rock, and everything's all good. But he had one of the best lines I think I've ever heard Game Pass described as. Game Pass is Xbox greatest exclusive. It's not any individual game. It is the
He's
service
right.
that is Game Pass, is Xbox's greatest exclusive. Because without any games in 2022, the consoles are still flying off the shelf. Why? Because they're giving games to you for cheap. Right?
Very true.
And I think that is why, PlayStation's not putting their stuff on day one. That's always going to be a limiter to their service. But I think that's why we saw the PS Plus Extra and Premium reband, because those kind of services where like you're getting not just like one publisher like EA Play or Ubi, right? But where you're getting everyone on it and you're getting all kinds of different games on it. Those are going to be some of the future of the casual base, because for such a cheap price, you're giving them a ton of games to play. I think you need the brand new in it, in addition to, like the old content library. Like old content library, very important. There ain't many more people besides maybe Shockley on this podcast that plays as many old games as I do, right? I pull out the PS3 all the freaking time, right? But I think you're going to need the new, and that's why Game Pass is all like, until Sony changes their mind and starts putting stuff on day one, if they feel they need to. I think Game Pass is always going to be the superior subscription because of that day one stuff. Now this year it doesn't feel quite as superior. I still think it does, but it's not quite as superior, right? Because we don't have like the big Starfields and stuff launching. Next year, the first freaking half of the year looks like what this entire year should have looked like, right? Like it looks crazy. But that's because everything got moved into it.
Now, I have no, you're absolutely right, Crusader, on that. No, I mean next year's looking pretty deep. Like we've had some pretty big years. I remember 2007 being a pretty awesome year. Lots of huge new and old IP. 2010 was a big year. I don't know. 2023 could blow them out of the water.
I mean, let's before we get into the Sony stuff, because I think fans really want to hear about it. At least I'm getting DMs about it. What 2022? What's slated for them quickly? They got the three big games: Forza, Starfield, Redfall. Then they got Stalker 2. They got Arc 2. What do you guys think is possibly at the end of the year could hit? Hellblade 2? I think is a
Maybe. I
possibility.
think Hellblade or Avowed could hit. I have a list. Hold on.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
I'm like Dr. List, so give me a
Not to
second.
mention there's a couple of
Contraband 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, MLD.
I mean,
I was gonna say maybe Contraband as well. Like there's a lot of unknowns right now. Like Xbox Publishing could do something as well.
Yeah, Contraband is one though.
Yeah,
It was
sure.
supposed to hit 2023. Who knows? We're still gonna feel COVID into 2026, because development got screwed up in a set of gaming in games with 5-year game development. Yeah, we're gonna feel that forever.
Yeah.
But my list I have is Starfield, Forza, Redfall, Stalker 2, Wo Long Fallen Dynasty, the game from Koei Tecmo.
Right. Well, that's a game. That's multi-platform Game Pass.
Who cares? It's Game Pass game. We're getting it
Okay.
on Game Pass,
I
right?
think so. Game Pass exclusive.
Yeah.
Arc
2, right?
Uh-huh.
And then Diablo 3 is also going to be a toss-up if it launches day one. Won't be exclusive, but like it could launch day one if the deal's done, right?
Yeah. Right.
MLB The Show could also launch back up. Gonna be multi-plat, but like, come on, guys, people go crazy for MLB The Show on Game Pass, right? So that has a good chance of dropping again. The Lies of P and Flintlock, right? Did you see
Nice.
the Flintlock game?
Flintlock looks great. Yes.
And then the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game.
Yes.
I don't know if that's going to be any good, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
I felt that the
I
IP
don't
was
know.
worth
It's
noting.
really cool. That's really cool to me. I'm a nostalgic guy. I love the movie. Supposedly takes place all in the movie in the house.
Don't for-
It's totally digitally step piece by piece. I'm all into that game. So
then-
for me, that's huge.
keep in mind.
Minecraft Legends as well, but it's not AAA. But Minecraft Legends.
Keep in mind.
Right.
It's supposed to be out in the
Right,
first half.
This is all now. This is crazy.
Dark
And-
Tide.
Dark Tide got so Dark Tide could still hit in December, right? Because they didn't say console 2023.
That's true, but I don't
It could
know.
still hit this year, and so I'm not willing to say it's gonna hit next year yet.
Well,
I'm gonna
hopefully we get it this year.
I'm gonna huff the copium.
Halo, probably the endless. Do you think that's possible? I mean,
That is possible.
Maybe in the holiday.
I do think that Project Belfry, Jeff Grubb and Jez Corden were both shocked that Project Belfry wasn't listed for the next 12 months. So he thinks that. So Jez is like, okay, it has to be the second half of next year, or else they upped the scope of the game. So Project Belfry, any of those, there's like $1.5 billion like Xbox game publishing games that are like not announced, but like Jez Corden and Jeff Grubb have like both corroborated together, like either like one of them either leaked it and the other one added information, or and vice versa.
the projects.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and ABK's entire now this ain't a brand new thing, right? But ABK's entire catalog should be coming.
Huge.
And
That's gonna be huge with that. I kind of just. I think
I
if that
haven't played a
game
Call
goes
of Duty
through-
since Ghosts.
But I think it'd be really big. I mean, just to have that, like the way Call of Duty is, I just think that just having the whole catalog is really strong.
And there's a lot of other games too, like Prototype,
Yeah,
Tony Hawk, Spyro, Crash.
yeah.
And then for Game Pass for PC, there is one that I didn't mention that is probably going to be one of my game of the years next year, as long as it's freaking good, and I really hope it is. And that's the Aura History Untold, the Civilizations turn-based strategy game.
Yeah, I love.
I have like 1,000 hours in Civ 6. All right, I
I
love
totally-
Civilizations. I love those types of games because I could just kind of like take a couple turns and then go do something else. Like they're very like put down and pick back up games,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And so I
good.
have so many hours into it because like I might leave it open. Like while I was in college, I'd read a chapter of my textbook and then I'd play like 10 turns and then I'd read another chapter, right? And they're the perfect kind of game for you got something else to do, but like you need to take breaks from that something else to do.
Mhm.
And so I have signed an NDA. I am in the insider alpha testing for that game when it drops. I am locked in.
Nice.
I remember playing that game, and I remember, isn't it like I had played it now going back way back, but like you could you have the economy goes down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's got like all like Civilizations has all kinds of different systems, like a monetary system where you have to be making you got to be making more gold than you're spending a turn, and then there's the
Right.
faith system where you found a religion and you're trying to spread your religion, and then there's the culture victory where you're trying to generate more culture than your opponents so that they have to and you're trying to beat them out by like making their tourists come to you versus your tourists going to them. And there's the military victory where you just go and you act like Genghis Khan and you destroy the world with war.
Mhm.
There's the science victory where like it's either like you land you go to another solar system or you land on Mars, or it's different in all the games and all the expansions and stuff. And like in the newest one they got global warming that you got to deal with and all kinds of great stuff, right? Like it's and there's like monopolies you can form if you control like most of the luxury resources. I love Civ 6, man. Civ 6,
Mhm.
if you want
I'm
a
a fan of those
turn-based
games.
strategy game, pick up Civ 6's complete edition. It's on Xbox, people. It's on Steam, where I see Brap in the chat. You can play the definitive edition of the game on PC.
Now,
Shout out to Mr. Brap with all of his definitive editions of games on PC.
Now, I mean, just to pass it off to somebody else on the panel, again, I'm curious about all the perspectives on this. MLD Bud, I know you've been very patient. I would love to know your thoughts on what Phil said. Like, do you agree with what Tim and Crusader are saying? Like, what are your thoughts on Phil's comments here in this latest interview?
Oh, yeah, I think I think what he's saying is just more of the same, and once again, it gets misinterpreted because when he says exclusive, it's a funny thing. When he says exclusives, people still think, especially on the PlayStation camp, they think that it means like, oh, give me Elder Scrolls now, give me Starfield. If he believes that exclusives are going away, that's not what he's saying. Like, I don't know. It's always exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem. And when fans say it, we really just mean it's a multi-plat, not on PlayStation, because Xbox hasn't done exclusives, like real exclusives, since 2015. So we all know this. We all know what he's actually saying. But of course, people tend to twist his words around, as they always do. And of course, we all know exclusives have their place. It brings people into your ecosystem. It gets you more Game Pass subs. If everything's multi-plat, everyone's not really gonna move over as much. Like, sure, day one Game Pass will get some people to move over, but if you really want to get people to come over, you do need some hooks. That said, you got things like Call of Duty, Minecraft, which are, yeah, like you guys said before, too big for Xbox to contain. That's best suited being everywhere as possible. And he also talked about things like crossplay, where Xbox is a big believer in crossplay. By comparison, Sony, there was those reports where Sony tried to charge developers for crossplay, and they're more hesitant to do that by comparison. So it's good for Phil to reiterate their commitment to crossplay and that kind of stuff. But overall, just he also talked about getting more developers in areas where they're not typically selling as well. So move away from Europe and North America developers. I'm personally betting on Japan. They need Japanese content right now. Tango is a good developer, but they need more than that. I personally hope they can go for Sega. EA is nice and all, but they already got to deal with EA Play. They got enough Western developers. They need Japanese developers. So I think that's the next play, in my opinion, because Sega, they're not too expensive. They're not going to break the bank. They don't have any mega IPs, but they do have a lot of games, a lot of developers, and a back catalog that spans 30 years. So that would be amazing for Game Pass to get. And again, it wouldn't break the bank.
Imagine
so overall, it's a good, yeah.
Dreamcast games on Xbox. Imagine, you know how the Dreamcast games came to Nintendo?
Oh yeah.
Imagine
exactly.
getting the Dreamcast and the Sega Saturn and all of them. Yeah, they weren't the greatest consoles. I know they sold 2 million copies. I don't care. They had good games on them.
I think it's a big deal. It adds up. Nostalgia is a very powerful thing. Yeah. A lot of those guys now, their dads now.
Do an EA Play deal at the very least. Bare minimum. Get me some of that stuff on Game Pass. They say no, they don't want to be bought. Then push them and be like, all right, we want your back catalog. Then give us your back catalog. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It will set Game Pass apart overall from the competition. Like you guys said before, Call of Duty on Game Pass. That to me is a game changer. People will discover these games if anything, only to play the campaigns. It matters. It's a big deal. A lot of these games, they still have some pockets of communities still playing the multiplayer. So whatever differentiates Game Pass from the competition, I'm all for that. So Phil's saying that he's looking for developers not in their traditional markets of Xbox selling the most. Fantastic. I'm all for that.
All right. No, absolutely. And again, the whole ecosystem thing, again, it's not just about consoles anymore. It's about, and I think Crusader really hit this on the head. It's about, again, Game Pass as a whole, and Game Pass is going to bring, again, a lot more people into the fold for Xbox through that ecosystem. So there's going to be a lot more driving them than just the console. I mean, we've known that since, their ambitions since about 2017. So, or even 16 actually, because they wanted to go PC and so on. So it's basically the Quantum Break days. Which, by the way, I love that game. That's a really good game. They should totally get a sequel. No bias there for me, of course. But and hey, I just love it, man. Centurion Pal, what are your thoughts on this? Do you agree with what the guys are saying, or do you have another thought on Phil's comments?
I agree with what they're saying. I mean, what Phil Spencer said, I like how I like how Tim said that Phil always speaks ahead of his time. I mean, I've God, I don't want to seem like I'm obsessed, but I actually enjoyed the message that Phil Spencer put out back in the day when he basically said, my success doesn't need to be built on the success of the Xbox brand. The success that he brings to it doesn't need to be founded on another company's failures or missteps. There's enough room in this in the gaming market for people to succeed on both ends. But that's where I'm going to say that, of course, there's not going to be parity between the two brands. You're not going to have every game on this console and every game on that console. Hell, not everything is even on PC. I went looking for a game today that I can find on Xbox 360 right now. Now, you got to buy it secondhand, but they're not even allowed to sell this game on Steam. And that's Telltale's Jurassic Park. So unless you want to go through an underhanded way of actually getting this game, so it just proves not everything is even available on PC. But I also know that Phil Spencer sees the future for the Xbox brand. He knows that a lot of the, they're almost going to be kind of like, I guess in a way, like Embracer, how they bring these groups in, but they're not going to just, like if they get a hold of Activision, there's not going to be a truck that shows up to rip down the Activision sign and put up Xbox Game Studios on the front of the building. It's going to remain Activision Blizzard. And that goes with any other arms or companies that they want to put in their portfolio. So that's also where I look at it from the perspective of going beyond just looking at the Xbox brand, but from the expansion that we saw in gaming during the pandemic, a lot of these developers saw this expansion. Also, we really got to think about it. Game Pass is in its infancy. Still, like this thing has only been around 5 years, 6 tops. This is something new that is also to developers, and it's also a new generation with the Gen 9 consoles. Developers are wanting to expand their reach. They're not wanting to limit themselves based on how much money they can make. You'll see that there's a lot more resistance in gaming development now to kind of like get yourself in that corner of exclusiveness for one guy or the other. We've seen this with Quantic Dream. Quantic Dream made a lot of PlayStation games, and then they came out and said, hey, we're kind of over that now. We want to make a new multi-plat game. And they're going to do that with Star Wars Eclipse. We're starting to see a lot of developers that are wanting to take advantage of the systems that are available to them. And one of those systems happens to be Game Pass. And I would have to agree. Like that is Microsoft's greatest exclusive right now. Game Pass, not only for the consumer, but also the developer. Because one thing that every developer knows is just because you put your game in Game Pass doesn't mean that you're exclusive to Game Pass. Somebody trying to say something?
No, I was just,
But for me, that's where I'm just looking at it from. Phil Spencer sees that also in the future that there's going to be a lot less developers that are going to want to kind of corner themselves into being an exclusive game because they have now more avenues available to them on creating revenue. And the end game for any developer is to create as much revenue as possible, to grow the company, to make another game, and to keep the cycle going, and to keep people employed, and keep the passion going for people that enjoy developing games. But that's where, let's look at it from the other side, the consumer. Microsoft knows that going beyond just a handful of exclusive games that they could put out every single year, they can also drive exclusiveness to the console with, God, what's the word I'm looking for? What does the consumer look for when they're value to the value? It goes beyond exclusives. It's also value. And, before we get into the other conversation for the night, there is people out there that literally have literally 3, 4, 5 children, maybe more, that all want to play games. Microsoft is wanting to come out with the Xbox Friends and Family plan. There is so many avenues that Xbox is creating value. Another thing is, what if your kid or yourself are regretfully handicapped? Well, Microsoft has a solution with that, with the adaptive controller. Microsoft has gone and tried to add as much value to the ecosystem as possible that actually outweighs any handful of exclusive games that anybody can try to grasp at straws that somehow say that these exclusive games give the console relevance. Not really, because if I want to play the damn game, I'll just buy the damn box that it's on. That's all exclusives are going to do for me. But then at the end of the day, let's talk about where you prefer. Like, you could have every console in your house, but it comes down to where do you prefer to spend most of your time? And that's whatever console creates the most value for you for your investment. And for me, that's Xbox. And that's where I enjoy what Xbox has given to me as value for a customer. And Phil Spencer sees this. Like, there is always going to be those small handful of exclusive games that are on PlayStation, that are on Xbox. But at the end of the day, regretfully, we know that the adoption rate for exclusives is very small compared to the bigger picture. I mean, like, look at PlayStation. 100 million sold, but we can only get 20% of them to buy Spider-Man.
Yeah,
like, I mean, that's pretty bad.
You got Nintendo with goddamn like Animal Crossing and the new that Mario Kart game that like launched with the Switch, and like they got the scariest, unbelievable attach rate in the world. You know what I mean? Like,
dude, that now when we look at Nintendo, man,
that shouldn't be counted. You know what I mean?
Dude, Nintendo literally marches to their own beat. I mean, they're probably selling Kool-Aid packets with the console. I mean,
their own world.
Dude, like, I saw the attach rate for my God, what is it? Zelda Breath of the Wild at like 102%. So we're every person that owns a Switch got that game and then some.
Yeah, that was nuts.
So definitely, I would definitely say exclusives work to a point, and Nintendo is definitely that rogue. But
they make their console in such an exclusive way. It's a handheld. You know?
That's true.
And, and like their console is almost like an exclusive. You know what I mean? Like,
I liked the concept that back in the day when the Switch came out, everybody was trying to call it a console, and like it's more like, I like the term that was coined as it's a hybrid.
Yeah,
it's a blend of two concepts.
Well, it is, but it isn't.
That's why I always put them in their own category, right? Like I've almost at this point, like I consider the Switch and the Steam Deck go in this like one category, right? Like it's almost like handhelds should be separate, and they've just created a way that you can dock it and play it on a TV as it should be, because like I can dock my laptop, you know what I mean, and put it up on a bigger screen. It's great. It's Nintendo out here. Look, like Microsoft and Sony, right? They look at their boxes, right, and they compete directly against each other for this marketplace, right? Nintendo looks at it and be like, how can we create our own marketplace? And that's what they did with the Switch. And the Wii. They did it with the Wii as well. They created their own marketplace. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very, very different tasks to the way they go about it. But you're right.
If you look at it from a value proposition, the value of taking your games with you.
It's huge. Yeah. The fact that I can take my games up to the shitter. Sorry, I'm really tired. I'm really tired. The fact that I can take my Switch
know what
into
Crusader
the bathroom
does.
with me is huge. I play Pokemon.
Wait a minute. Oh God, I'm not even gonna touch that one. In Pokemon in the bathroom.
It's great though, you know. I'm tired and I don't want to, you know. My feet are sore from. I did this last night, right? I was standing all day for the wedding that I was in, and you know what I did last night? I went up and I laid in bed and I pulled out my Switch and I played my Switch all night. I don't play my Switch often, but when I do, it's when I want to be comfortable and I don't want to be in front of the TV. You know what I mean? And you're right, they created their own value. And it's insane. And like, that's one thing I'll always, people rag on Nintendo. Oh, the games don't look as good, or they don't perform as well, or whatever, right? Nintendo out here doing something totally different and might have they're gonna have one of the top 3 best-selling consoles of all time with the Switch, right? Like, I don't even think that's really up for debate. That they're gonna be in the top 3. Whether or not they'll take out 2 or 1, who knows. But Microsoft and Sony in the console department, right? They kind of just do the same thing every time, right? Like it is a console you plug into your TV. Nintendo out here trying to reinvent gaming every freaking like 6 years. You know what I mean? Like the Wii was nothing like the GameCube was before the Wii, right?
Yeah.
Yes, the GameCube.
The Wii was
came before
nothing
the
like
Wii.
the GameCube. You plugged into your TV, but you were standing in front of the TV like a moron, shaking the things around all day, and everyone loved it. You know what I mean? We were playing bowling in our living room, and Microsoft kind of tried to do that with the Kinect, but it was always an afterthought. You know what I mean? Whereas with Nintendo, normal games were an afterthought. Call of Duty was an afterthought for Nintendo, and how Call of Duty would work on their console. They didn't care, right? And so, when anyone ever says anything bad about Nintendo, I'm like, Nintendo's out here doing their own thing, and they're like, they number 1 with their consoles. Like they killing everyone else right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're doing pretty well. I just wish that they would. I can't stand their store. So
I can't. Yeah, no. Nintendo's like online features and like their usability of their console. Yeah, the 360 did it better. The PS3, for Christ's sake, did it better. The PS3 has like the worst store. It's awful. It is awful. But it's still better than the Switch, right? And Nintendo needs to get out of the dark ages because they like just learned peer-to-peer. They just learned that they could charge people for online services. But like, you're never gonna see. They make their own games. Like when I'm talking about Mario, I don't really know how to describe it besides it's a Nintendo game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's a 3D platformer, but it's a Nintendo game. And so Nintendo's the one that I think Phil is saying is going to be resistive to this move of like existing on more than one device. And they're going to be resistive as long as they can be, because they don't need to. They physically do not need to operate in the same way, because their fans operate in literally a different way, right? Like if they can get like 40 to 50% of their console to buy Animal Crossing, I mean, not much to that game. It's fun. It's very casual. It's very like family friendly, right? You know what I mean? Like very fun to create your island and everything. But they can get 50% of their owners to buy that thing. They don't need to go to PC yet. You know what I mean? They don't, because that doesn't cost the same cost that like Starfield's going to cost to make, or God of War is going to cost to make, right? They don't need to get that secondary revenue when they can get all of that revenue on their console. They don't need it yet.
Yeah.
At Microsoft and Sony, Phil's not I really don't think Phil's talking about Jim Ryan when he's talking about some are going to be resistive. Sony's going to be resistive in their own little Sony way, where like they want to adapt, but they don't want to adapt too fast. They want to go in gracefully so that there's no abrupt change to their revenue streams. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. It's a little annoying as a consumer, but like at the end of the day, it's business. And like I can't be mad because at least they got a service, and I like their service, right? They don't got day one stuff that much, but like it's a good service.
Agreed.
Nintendo's going to be the resistive one.
Yeah. But no, you make some good points there, Crusader, and actually the entire panel altogether. Just to wind up this topic and move on, Phil Spencer, he really, brought up a lot of different things, a lot of encouraging things too, whether it be about new technologies, comments about exclusivity, and, just where the Xbox ecosystem's going, and the acquisition of Activision Blizzard. It seems to be progressing quite well, but again, we'll know more in the coming weeks. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff to look forward to. Okay, guys, I think on that we'll move on to our last topic for the night, and probably our more contentious. Sony recently announced that they'll be raising the price of the PlayStation 5 consoles across the globe pretty much, including select European markets, Asia, Africa, Latin America, Canada. Man, that sucks. So yeah, basically everywhere, but I don't think the States, to be honest. I'm pretty sure the States didn't get listed in there, funny enough.
Nope. The United States, it is staying the same.
Man.
The US dollar is down bad, but not down that bad.
Don't get me started on the Canadian dollar. The reason, well, it's inflationary pressures, apparently, according to PlayStation. And naturally, a large portion of consumers did not like that one bit. Now, Centurion Buddy, I'll lead off with you on this one. What are your thoughts on Sony's increasing the price of the PlayStation 5? Because, is that a bad move, or was it necessary on their part?
It is completely and utterly tone deaf. Yeah, bad move. And you know what? I've seen the people on Twitter that have said some pretty outrageous things about, making welfare jokes and stuff like that, and how, like, basically shelling out more money for one platform somehow, like, Invader, imagine you and I bought the exact same car with the exact same mileage, but you paid more than me. Does that make you feel special?
Oh, well, it makes me feel super special, but in the wrong way.
That's where I have to kind of chuckle at that, but I don't know. There's people out there that seem to think that, like, paying a premium for something means it's special. So, but I mean, dude, this is completely tone deaf. Sorry. Inflation is a big problem right now. But yeah, it's a big problem. It's affecting everybody. It's starting to get to the point where you can go out to eat and it's cheaper than buying food in the store. It's getting ridiculous. And that's where, but Sony should be able to, they're wanting to pass off expenses to the customer that they can actually absorb. They just got to lower, it's that whole sentence. Why do you got to make billions? Why not make hundreds of millions, But no, we got to keep that profit margin up. But at the same time, that's why I have to chuckle at my job right now where I work in the department I'm in control of. I've had to absorb inflation for the customer's benefit because you got to stay competitive. Do you know how stupid it looks that you're raising the price for your console and all your competitors are like, yeah, that's not for us. I mean, it's like all of a sudden Sony sees themselves as the market king and that they are untouchable. And that's going to bite them in the ass. Paul Tassi over at Forbes wrote a good article on this. And basically, PlayStation at this point is going down a road and creating the public perception that they are greedy. We're talking, let's look at it right now. PlayStation, home of paying $10 for your game upgrades, for your 4K assets and all the other stuff that makes that game look really good and function differently. Over on the Microsoft side, free of charge for most stuff, at least first party studio. Let's not bring in third party and all this other stuff, but we're talking first party studio stuff. Microsoft gives you upgrades for free. PlayStation does not. PlayStation wants $70 for every game. Doesn't matter if it's even a remake. So you're telling me The Last of Us remake coming out on the PS5 is somehow worth more than when it came out on the original, I think, was it originally a PS3 game?
Correct. And then
That's
it was remastered on
the original PS3 game came out for $60 and it came with multiplayer.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, shit. No. They don't get the multiplayer. They don't get this. They don't get that. But they get that $70 price tag. Yeah, cool. Thumb up there. And then finally, it's a more expensive console at this point. Sony has really, at this point, I always made the jokes of power to the payers. And yeah, I always made the joke, but I didn't really see Sony wanting to be the one that really kind of did something in gaming that hasn't really been exactly seen before. and that's raised the price of a console across the board.
Three
Now-
times it's happened
Well,
that I can think of. Canada, in the early 2000s, both Xbox and PlayStation did it, specifically in Canada, due to the recession. Xbox did it specifically in India with the Series X not that long ago because of how bad the Indian what is it,
the rupee.
the rupee fell.
Yes.
They adjusted it. But
So
only in India.
and only in
Meta
India.
did it. Meta did it with their
Oh
with
yeah.
the Quest 2. They raised it by $100, but then they included Beat Saber for everyone who was going to buy it at the higher cost.
That's a whole argument in itself, but
Yeah.
but they're talking about on a large scale price raising. This is probably one of the first times they've seen like an actual like widespread price raise. But that's where, like you brought up, yeah, they wrote in Microsoft with the Series X with the rupee. I knew about that one, but that's where we're talking about actual currency being devalued. It didn't really strike to me as PlayStation in the concept of manufacturing. That manufacturing has gotten expensive, yes, but when you're coming out and you're saying that you have record profits, you have record this, record that, everything's making money, but we still need more. And that's where it's becoming tone deaf.
There is, and it sounds very tone deaf. You're absolutely right. But there is one big factor that the average person isn't going to understand, which is why I believe that they either should have ate it or given some kind of digital something. Right? They could have given everyone God of War 2018 and not lost a dime. You know what I mean? Game came out in 2018, and they could have used it as co-marketing for Ragnarok and just roll with it. You know, with the price increase, they could have just handed out that game or given everyone some PS Extra, right? Where they're based in Japan, Sony as a corporation, so they're backed by the yen, and the yen. I don't know if you guys have watched a graph of the yen, but the yen has tanked. Right, like we're talking U.S. We got record inflation of 9%, right? Like it's breaking records since the 40s, like the Great Depression records, right? I don't know about how is it in Canada.
Oh, it's up.
I don't.
It's
It's up, but do you know your rate at all or anything off the top of your head? Because I don't. I don't want to speak for you guys.
It's roughly the same. Like
It's roughly the same. Okay.
we're breaking records too. So
Yeah,
in Japan, they're not actually suffering from inflation. The yen is just tanking because of like there are other economic reasons. Their inflation rate is actually only like something like 2.5%. The currency exchange rates are just atrocious. Normally it's like $0.009 per 1 yen, and now it's like 0.007. I don't know if that's the exact numbers, but it dropped from a 9 to a 7, right? Like that's a huge drop in the conversion rate, which actually means, and China saw the same thing where their currency actually dropped in comparison to the dollar. Microsoft, it actually might be cheaper right now for them to produce a console than it was, and that's hilarious, right? When you think about that. But for Sony, it is going to cost them a lot more to actually produce their consoles than it normally would because they're backed by the yen and the yen is collapsing, right?
Yet Nintendo isn't doing anything though.
Nintendo's not doing anything, well, because number one, Nintendo is the only one that actually reports their profit margin, and Nintendo's actual profit margins are 29%. Unmitigatedly, no way to deny it. Nintendo can eat this, right? They can eat this into their margins are 29%. Do you have any idea how ridiculous that is of a margin? Margins are usually at like 15% for most things, and they're like double.
So from a technology standpoint, we're talking about the fact that we all know when it comes to manufacturing, especially technology, the price goes down over time.
Yes.
That's why you build at a loss in the beginning and you start getting profits towards the middle of the life cycle.
And Nintendo and Sony wanted to move away from this. Yep.
And PlayStation already came out and said that they were making profits on the PlayStation.
Yep.
And that's where
Jim Ryan special.
And that's where it's just interesting that literally we're talking about a 2-year-old piece of tech is now all of a sudden more expensive to manufacture. Now, maybe as you're saying with the yen, it's going down.
It's going to be more expensive for them to manufacture because their currency is literally worth less, right?
But
like,
we're
it's not
talking
because
they've introduced.
It's not because the parts are any more expensive. It's because their money is physically worth less. They literally, like, what they could buy with it like a couple months ago, they can buy like only like 80% of what they could buy. Does that make sense? Like,
Right, but now
like
we've gotten avenues like with what has been called the PlayStation tax, the extra $10 that
yes,
they charge
yep.
across the board. That's extra revenue. They have PS Now, and they've completely revamped that. They have created other sources of revenue to offset the costs that they are trying to pass off into the customers during an extreme scene of inflation, and that's where it just comes off as tone deaf because literally they have the money to float this and eat it, but they're choosing not to.
Yep. And you know, they like I said, you know, maybe it really kills their margins, right? And maybe they really don't want to do that because like their margins are totally evaporated. And like, while I disagree on ever pushing costs, like, because in theory this is a temporary cost, right? Like, in theory the market fixes itself eventually, right? And like everything normalizes, exchange rates go back to normal. Maybe the inflation is semi-permanent, but we like everything kind of adjusts, right?
Right.
And so this is temporary, so like you would expect them to just eat it temporarily, right? You know what I mean? Or at the very least, give us something. Meta at least gave everyone Beat Saber, you know what I mean? A $15 game, but they gave it to everyone.
I think that being that they didn't have a statement after the outrage and a lot of the negative comments and negative reaction, it doesn't. I think that they're saying, hey, we know that it might be a problem in the United States, so we're not gonna raise the prices here, even though we would like to. If we were selling 2-to-1, we would. But hey, we're gonna raise the prices and we're gonna roll with it. And what Tassie's article I felt was as well. I felt like it made a lot of good points. You don't want perception to start creeping in on your console that you're greedy or you're in Xbox's case you're spying on them or you're with DRM and all that stuff. They're playing a dangerous game right here, right now, in my opinion. And there is a possibility this all blows over and they still sell the same, but there is also a possibility that they start to erode their word of mouth, and Xbox keeps picking up better value and better word of mouth.
Tim,
So
there's already reports coming out of Japan and areas in Asia that they have basically thrown their hands up and they are no longer interested in the PS5 in the PlayStation console.
Right.
They're going to start going towards PC.
Yeah.
Basically, this is going to cause them to have a smaller ecosystem.
Right. The truth of the matter is, we won't know really if this was as foolish as we think it is down the line. If they still sell, and they're doing awesome, and they're still doing what they were supposed to, then it's not going to really affect them. But I think it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous even in perception in the United States because anytime you just have that associated with your console, and then like you come out with like The Last of Us, the remake, and it's $70, and people are like, "What's going on here?" People are pissed off just in general with money and inflation and the economics of everything globally. That it's just, in my opinion, it's just a little tone deaf, and it's just a little bit of a risk here. But I do think, though, to what Crusader is saying, I'm getting tired too. I do think Sony really is feeling it. The ABK deal when it was announced really hit them hard.
Their
They
stock's
lost,
hard.
yeah, so they've been losing a lot of money, and I just think that they're just trying to, uh, they're getting a little nervous, maybe. But I personally, I think they're playing with fire because just the way gamers are and the way they tend to jump ship, and you know they don't, it's what have you done for me lately mentality. As we know, we saw it from the 360, the PS2, the PS3 era to 360, where people jumped off of Sony and they went to 360, and then you sure saw it last generation where it was ridiculous amount of people left Xbox and went to PlayStation to the point where they're outselling them more than 2 to 1 and like obliterating them in markets that Xbox used to be competitive to now this year where I think Xbox is definitely still behind. They're much more competitive, but yeah, I personally think this is going to have an effect in possible areas like UK. UK, so, I could see them. I could see Xbox, doing much better, and the telltale signs will be where do these consoles sell when they're all readily available, and that's the thing. We're still not at
Well,
that
here's the
point.
scenario for you, Tim, is we are starting to see at least the Xbox side, especially with the Series S. I actually saw a Series X in store for the first time ever, at least out here. Like this holiday season, if Microsoft comes in and they're already the cheapest console out there if we don't look at the Switch. And if Microsoft comes in and gives a $50 off discount on both consoles for the Christmas holiday time when everybody's going to be looking for that object to get their kid for Christmas or get themselves for Christmas, literally Sony has a big situation of I can either go out of my way and pull my hair out and go buy this expensive ass PlayStation 5, or I can get this readily available Xbox whatever console, save myself about at least $100 if we're looking at the Series X, couple $100 if we're looking at the Series S. And the games, $15 gets me all these games if I go with Game Pass Ultimate. I honestly think that at this holiday season, Microsoft is going to clean house.
But keep in mind too,
If they can make them.
Keep in mind too, that's also Nintendo is also not raising their prices either, and Nintendo's still,
Right.
Going along very strong too.
Well, that's why I said if we're just comparing Xbox to PlayStation, Microsoft has the potential to be extremely competitive this holiday season.
Yes.
And we know from just reading the stuff, like, and all the stuff that came out in those Brazilian documents and just how PlayStation has been acting lately, we all know that PlayStation is scared of the size of Microsoft's wallet. And they know that Microsoft can absorb costs. They can also take a loss on stuff and do things with their products that PlayStation can't because of financial constraints. And that's where if Microsoft wants to be really aggressive this holiday season, all they got to do is discount those consoles, and literally PlayStation is going to have a hard time with any kind of NPD measurement.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's provided they can actually produce them. Phil's already stated that he still thinks that they're going to be hard to find this holiday season, especially since holiday season spikes the demand for everything.
Right. And now to also play, I guess, devil's advocate, I think also that there's a partial reason why this price increase is willing to, like, PlayStation is probably willing to do this and play with fire, is the consumers very sadly went out and paid these absorbent costs to scalpers. So PlayStation knew they were leaving money on the table.
We the scalper now.
Huh?
You know the, like, I am the captain now? From the we are the scalper now.
Oh, right.
Pretty much.
I just laugh. It basically, I even said, I was like, dude, you're showing these companies you're willing to pay more for a product So what happens if they want to raise the price of said product, or the next time they release another console, it's at an even more greater price because they're like, well, last gen, you guys are willing to spend $1,000 on one of those things.
Now, MLD, I'm curious on your thoughts on this one. Like, what do you think of the PlayStation 5 price increase? Do you agree with what the other panel members are saying?
Oh yeah, pretty much here, because I think back to the 360 PS3 gen. The PS3 at launch they were losing so much money on it, but they ate the cost until it was sustainable. And the reason why they did that was because they were behind on market share compared to Wii, and 360 was doing pretty good. But now I can't help but get the impression that because they're enjoying record profits and pretty good market share, that they can afford to do this, because they know that in the non-US markets that people are going to buy the PlayStation regardless. I mean, they got God of War coming out. They know they know they can do it. They can pass off any market fluctuations onto the consumer, and not only will they continue to buy it online, they will defend it. They will praise it. And so it's almost like they know that. Like, they raised the price of games to $70, and their fans, okay, it's a premium product. Okay, I'll pay $70. They're like, oh, okay, no backlash. Sweet, let's see what else we can do. So like Xbox, they do like smart delivery. They charge $10 to upgrade games. Like their BC is behind a paywall, like like with PS3 games. It's little things like that that keep adding up. That adds to this overall perception that they are in fact greedy. They are in fact arrogant. Like I think just as much as they were in the beginning of the PS3 gen, or like say before the PS3 launched. So yeah, I mean, we're all seeing it right now. Like the Japanese gamers on social media, they're voicing their frustration because Sony moved their headquarters from Japan to California, and they closed the Japan studio. Like they see where the wind is going. They see where Sony is putting most of their attention, and they see their price increase for their console, for their favorite console. Of course they would be upset. It's just, again, one little thing on top of the other. It creates a certain perception. Whereas Xbox, like, all they got to do is ride out this year until the 2023 flood comes. And this is just helping them out, essentially. It gives them goodwill, shows that they're thinking of the consumer here. Day one games on Game Pass, smart delivery. It's just the two brands and how they do things. They could not be any more different at this point. Like, it's just so clear as day to me right now. Like how Sony is just banking on their customers to ride out any storm, despite announcing that their console was profitable last year. So, okay. I mean, if they think they can get away with it, okay. I mean, but they are on thin ice. Like, their PR is definitely taking a hit with this one.
You just caused me a stroke of brilliance, right? So, like, you were talking about how the companies, they're looking at stuff and they could be like, we could charge you $1,000, next time because of the scalpers, right? See, I don't know that Microsoft will ever fall into that. And it's not because Microsoft don't want to make money, right? Like, Microsoft wants to make money. But there's a big difference between how Xbox is trying to sell their console versus how PlayStation is trying to sell their console. With Xbox, the console's a delivery system for their real thing. And their real thing is Game Pass, right? Like, that's what Microsoft wants at the end of the day. They want you to sub the Game Pass, right? And so Microsoft, they're going to sell that console as cheap as possible, even if that means a slight loss or a break-even point, right? And so they're going to look at the price of the console, and they're going to put it as low as they physically can, because they don't really care about selling that console. They care about getting that gamer on Game Pass. Whereas Sony, right now, they've now made it a business prerogative that when they sell their console, they got to make money off that console, right? So they're going to sell it for the maximum price that they think they can get away with. Versus Xbox, who's going to try and sell it at the lowest price that they think they can get away with. All because their distribution models are different. And at the end of the day, I think you're going to see a lot of people, especially in the casual department, who don't really even care about Game Pass, right? They probably don't know what that is, right? But they're going to see the difference in the price for those devices that play basically the same games, right? For the most part. Like, what? Probably 98% of the games are the same, would you say? Right? Like the multi-plats?
Something like that.
Oh, yeah,
like, a really high number for like multi-plats versus exclusives. They're not really gonna care because they're gonna see that Microsoft's selling it as cheap as they can because it's their prerogative to get you on Game Pass. They don't care. You know what I mean? Like they want to make money, but at the end of the day, where they want to make that money conflicts with selling the console at a high cost and a high profit, right? Whereas Sony, they're trying to make money off the console, so like there's not a real conflict there. You know what I mean? And so that's why Sony's more willing to raise this price. They want to make that scratch off the console, and I think that's going to hurt them in the long run. I think it's going to really hurt them in the long run.
Also, I think it's because essentially Xbox, I mean, it's the reality of the situation. They're the ones playing catch up. They're the ones hungrier for the market share. So it is in their best interest to offer the better deal. Now, people, I've seen the arguments online where people say, well, say Xbox, they buy up all these publishers and they eventually gain back market share. And when they're on top, what makes you think that they're going to do anything different? Like, basically, they'll be like Sony is right now. I'm thinking to myself, I think they'll more or less stay the course to a degree, because if you go back on day one games, there will be a massive PR backlash, like when Xbox Live was raising up. It's not like they'll all of a sudden take games off PC and put them back on console only. They put into motion these set of events that they cannot walk back. So and they buy these publishers. Oh, are they going to give them away? No, they're going to keep them. They'll keep making day one Game Pass games. Like the things they're doing right now, it's going to continue, whether they're where they are now or whether they're on top. Like these are things that, again, you cannot take back without massive PR backlash.
More expensive, right? You know what I mean? Game Pass might go up, and that's a fight for 10 years from now.
Right.
At the end of the day, I think that we brought up a lot of great points. But for me, I think you made the comment, Crusader, where you're looking at these games, they're playing the same games, and one's costing more than the other. I really feel the most impactful deal will be when Call of Duty hits Game Pass day one, and I really feel like that's going to be the pendulum pushing deal. Where here, this is just not good word of mouth. It's not a smart move. And Nintendo and Xbox are very smart to just jump on this. It's still going around. Listen, the reaction, when I saw the news, I was like, okay, I got to work. I've been busy. You guys know that. I'm like, don't be so sure. And, Xbox possibly could follow suit. I doubt it, which I did. But don't be, going too crazy. When I came back to my feed, I had people like, yeah, this big corporation. Just people were they've lost their minds on Sony. And if they're like, if Microsoft even tries this, it'll be the last straw. People are mad and people are very upset. And I'm surprised Sony didn't make a comment or didn't deal with it. But it's still out there. So how long this will take, I just think this is just going to erode their word of mouth. But overall, when it comes to value and stuff like that, I really do feel like Xbox is on the right course. Their model's built. They're not changing anything down the road. They're never going to go back on day and date. They have cross-buy. They've built this. The model's up and running. Right now, it's just about gaining market share, and they're in good position. And it's just crazy to me how gens go. Like, Xbox couldn't do anything right last gen, and Sony did everything right. And now it's like this gen, it seems like Sony's just had numerous errors, and Xbox has been pretty smart, like, with everything that they've done, especially with the Series S. A lot of people question that, but that's the smartest thing I think that they did, because that thing this holiday, you're not going to be able to get them, like Phil said, but I do feel like it's going to be a crazy hot ticketed item. I do see Xbox maybe taking MPD this year, and moving forward. They've just had a lot of they've done a lot of things right. The only thing that they really had a blemish was the delays, and I think people can understand that with COVID and stuff like that, and especially with, as Porter Rock says, the Game Pass is the best exclusive for Xbox, which is true. It really has carried them, and I do think it will carry them throughout the year.
Tim, you said something. You're saying the Call of Duty, like when Call of Duty goes exclusive. Imagine a world, or not exclusive. I'm sorry. Where Call of Duty comes to Game Pass. Imagine a world where we get a day one Call of Duty drop on a discounted Xbox, but the PlayStation still price increased because of inflation. Imagine that world.
Charge them $70 and we get 60 even.
Like imagine a world where where the Xbox Series S is dropped to like the equivalent of like $250, right? Like that's a permanent drop. And you can get Game Pass, and the Call of Duty is going to be day one on it, and then the PlayStation is going to cost like the equivalent of like $550, and the Call of Duty is going to cost $70. It kind of boggles the mind. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's going to add up.
Yeah, no, it is going to add up. It's going to be
death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, and that's what
PlayStation's going through, you know?
Not only that, but I mean, like, you look at Call of Duty's only one cut. I mean, when you're talking about Activision Blizzard, there's a couple of pretty large IP there. So,
yep.
But yeah, Call of Duty's a big difference maker. I don't know, guys. I know we've gone on for a little while longer than usual. Anyone else want to add anything in before we start heading off? All right. I think on that note, we'll end off tonight's show. And guys, fun stuff tonight, gentlemen, on all the nice discussions. Like, with September around the corner, I'm looking forward to whatever news awaits us. I mean, since it seems like every other game pretty much is getting delayed into 2023 at this point. But, I digress. And, really great chat about all the topics. And, really, really fun night with all you guys. And also a huge shout out to everyone that tuned in tonight. Saw some familiar faces and some new ones as well. Thank you all for being here. And if you enjoyed our banter tonight, then please consider dropping a like, subbing to the channel, as well. If you want to stick around, make sure, you share all this across social media and, make sure everybody is aware of TXR and this episode in particular. Now, with all that said, let's get to the outros, starting off with General MLD. Buddy, great show tonight. Where can everybody follow you?
Oh yeah, great show. You guys can find me at MLD Ghost on Twitter, gamertag GhostMLD. And yeah, it was a great show. A lot of good topics, and I'm pretty sure Xbox will keep it coming next week, one way or another. Looking forward to it, guys.
Totally. I totally agree with you, brother. Moving on next, Tim Dog. Buddy, great show tonight. Really, really loved what you said. Where can everybody follow you?
About Tim Dog on Twitter. Every Sunday night, most Sunday nights. I know I've been very sporadic with a lot of stuff going on in my life right now. Sunday nights, Tuesday nights on TXR, 8 p.m. Great show tonight. Crusader, MLD, Invader, everyone on the panel. Great job, MLD. We do a good job here, I think. And like you said, Invader, send out our likes, like it up, send it around. I think people will enjoy the show if they listen to it. Let's try to get more people listening in, especially when we have good shows like this tonight. Put it all in, and we give it a lot. Happy to be here, and I'll be here next week, and hopefully we get some more news. This is when for me, it's particularly tough when there's no news. I've been doing podcasts for now almost 10 years. And when there's no news, it's very hard. But like when there's news like this, you can see how dynamic the show is because we got something to talk about. So
Yeah.
Talk about the the ABK deal so much, and without repeating yourself. But yeah, really, honestly, the panel tonight was on fire. Crusader, you really, I'm really enjoyed that you've come on the show. You really had a super spark, and I'm glad that you're also doing other shows with Mooch. He's a great guy, good friend, and great podcaster too. So good on you, and keep doing what you're doing. And we'll see you all next week.
Thanks a lot, Tim.
Well said, Timmy. Well said. And moving on down here, Centurion Buddy. Hey, really great stuff tonight as well. Where can all these fine people follow you at?
Well, for those interested, you can find me at Centurion1307 on YouTube, Xbox Live, and Twitter. You can also find me here every Sunday night on the TXR Podcast with this amazing group of gentlemen. And you can also find me every Wednesday over on Gaming Beyond the Box with the amazing guys over there like Wilmy Hood, Bomber, Peniac, Leo. It's been an absolute blast being part of that, and I'm having a lot of fun just doing these two shows.
All right, good stuff, my friend. Good stuff. And Crusader Buddy, I mean, I know you were a bit tired, but damn, you must have had some caffeine in you because you were really pumping along tonight.
You're getting exhausted, Crusader, right now. An exhausted Crusader gets loud. And loses all ability to have a filter. And I do have to say that I'm happy Exhausted Crusader came out tonight, because this is probably my favorite episode of this show that I've been on since the first one. And the first one's always going to hold a special place because that was my first podcast ever. But like this was great tonight. All of the back and forth from everyone. You know, all the great conversations we had. You know, great show, everyone. I also get sappy when I'm tired. So, you know, great show. Everyone can find me at Crusader3456 on like every social media platform and every, console, and Steam and stuff. Just you'll find me if you look up Crusader3456. Just look for Garrus.
Yeah, no, you're right. Look for Garrus, guys. And yeah, to round out the crew, you can find my content over on YouTube at Invader Gaming. I've been dropping some Warhammer 40k gameplay for Space Marine recently, so if you want to check that out, go right ahead. Also planning on doing some more reviews soon. Also, check me out on Twitter at Invader_19886. Really good show tonight, and we look forward to seeing you all here on the next one. Later, everyone. See ya.